All right. Greetings, everybody. This evening we'll be discussing hip hop, sports, and the occult. This evening's class is more laid back, more relaxed. We're going to be discussing things that should be fun to talk about, should be things that are interesting to talk about. And the reason why we decided to do this route, simple. Sometimes we get super uptight and we get so deep and dark and mysterious and everything else, and we forget how to laugh. We forget how to enjoy life. We get super spaced out. We want to travel the astroverse and forget that you're still here, and that it's nothing wrong with enjoying your life here while you're still existing in the physical, even though you may be accomplishing spiritual tasks, spiritual work. There's nothing wrong at all with enjoying your life. And some of us, depending what generation to even to today, hip hop has been a hard foundation for a lot of us. Growing up, hip hop was a part of our life. Myself, Beniti, Duma, Demetrius, we came up when hip hop was just coming up, when it was just starting to make a scene, and people were still cracking on hip hop. Oh, that shit ain't gonna last. This ain't real music. That's some bullshit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this evening, that's what we're going to be dealing with. So if you want to get spiritual and deep down and super mystical, tonight's not the night. Hold that off for another class, another event, another situation. All right? Eventually, so we're going to say this now to start now. Okay? So because we don't want to waste time later when the room fills up. You have to, right now, while we're talking, everybody's got to give their top 5 MCs. Now, we understand you're from different eras sometimes, but if we talk shit about it, just deal with it, all right? Top 5 MCs. So you got to start writing this down while we're talking. Top 5 female MCs, okay? Which is going to be a little more difficult if you haven't really gotten into hip-hop like that. Top 5 female MCs. And then your top 5 groups, hip-hop groups of all time. All right? So you got to start writing down. We're going to be interactive tonight. All right? More interactive, more building on shit. Okay?
Yep.
For that, let me just do a quick intro and then pass it to Beniti after this about hip-hop. Just a quick intro. Everybody should know this history.
Ravana Noon, just so you know. The Bucks are about to blow this game, brother.
Yeah, good. Rams supposed to be one of the best, and the Buccaneers are destroying these fools. Anyway, so check this out. I'm happy they're destroying them, but let's do a quick rundown, all right? Just in case. There's always history as what people accept, and then there's always the alternative route of history, which may not be always accepted, okay? The common history of hip-hop is hip-hop started out in 1973, Sedgwick Avenue, with Kool Herc, okay? And they were having a jam within these, in Sedgwick Avenue, they have a recreational center in between the buildings. That's where it started. It got so packed, it overflowed. It went to the park down the street, and they were jamming outside. This is what people say. Now, there's an alternative route, an alternative that will tell you about Bronxdale, the Bronxdale projects. There's people who will tell you that in Bronxdale, hip-hop was there too a long time ago, and there was a DJ simultaneously with Kool Herc named DJ Mario, okay, who was there spinning the records, spinning the James Brown, spinning the things like that, and they were actually battling between the two, though that's not mentioned commonly in the most accepted history, okay? If you leave it up to what traditional acceptance is, then that's one route. I keep my mind open and investigate that. I don't believe it just started out one spot in Kool Herc and all this. I think simultaneously across the Bronx, and then it spread throughout the New York boroughs. People were doing this shit simultaneously, okay? Maybe one person started 10 minutes earlier. I don't know. But it is done all across the board, and it's spread throughout the boroughs of New York. And then from the boroughs, it hit the tri-state area. And then from there, It spread everywhere because, as you know, New Yorkers a lot of times in the summer, they used to come down to the South to go visit their family. They brought the music with them there. They went to the Midwest, the West, so hip-hop. Now, what is hip-hop? Well, hip-hop, the word hip-hop itself was coined by Busy Bee, okay? He used to do a little rap, hip to the hop, to the hippity hop. That was Busy Bee. And they coined the word hip-hop to be attached to the 4 elements at that time. There was more, but the 4 most major elements: DJing, B-boying, B-girling, MCing, and writing, or street art or graffiti. Now, there is, simultaneously at some of these parties, they would have double dutch, okay? There would be girls doing double dutch there. So that one time when the Fresh Fest tour went around the United States, they used to have double dutch girls up there, okay? So you got to keep this in mind. There is always additional elements, but it's not commonly spoken about. Those are like the 4 major elements. Now, when I spoke to Bambaataa, being I was in the Universal Zulu Nation for years, and I was a vice chapter leader in Hartford, Connecticut, he shared some insight with me about hip hop. Okay, one of the things that he shared was simply that most of them came from gangs. People know about this. Most of hip hop started with the origin of gangs, Black Spades, Savage Nomads, on and on and on. Okay, and then from there, as that started getting too violent, people started looking for alternative means. That's when Bam, Kool Herc, Grandmaster Flash, these individuals started bringing music to the table to kind of calm down the violence, all right? The DJ is like the drummer, okay? And this is like how Bam broke it down. The DJ is like the drummer. They keep the drum beat. And if you know anything about hip-hop, the original beats were break beats. The break beats were basically breaks of records, right? So, for example, when you had Apache, let me see if I could find this fucking thing here real quick. I should have had this queued up, but when you hear Apache, right, and you listen to Apache, and I don't know if people know what Apache is, so that's why I'm trying to find it. You think, I don't know, let me see if I can find this shit. If not, I'll find this song. But anyways, the key thing is finding the break of the record, okay? The break of the record is that part of the music where there's no singing and it was just the rhythmic beat, which was usually had a drum or some kind of drum in its music. That's when the B-boys and B-girls, or what became known through Hollywood or the media as breakdancers, that was never their name, by the way, it was always B-boys, B-girls, came out and started to break to the break of the record. Okay, the break of the record would then be done side to side or kept rhythm side to side on 2 turntables going back and forth. Okay, so that's essentially how hip-hop began. The dancers were there, and then the MCs started doing rhymes over the music. But the original rhymes were kind of basic, you know, more like hype men. They would call out to the crowd, to the audience, you know, say ho, say this, say that. Everybody, you know, call and dance, call and singing back and forth. So that was that. And then the graffiti writers who were always in the area kind of came, got invested in it, got down with the whole culture. That became hip hop today. Okay? Now, from there, it's blown up around the world. Okay? All over the world. And as a matter of fact, me and Beniti had discussed this, in other countries, they keep the true hip hop more alive and keep it to its origins more than they do here in America.
That's right.
In America, we seem to just be like fad people. We follow the fads, we jump around into the fads, and we forget about the roots of a lot of these things, which is why trap music became what it is today, because it got away from the origins of hip hop. What was the origin or the origin beats of hip hop? The boom bap. That's where all that shit came from, was the boom bap. And a lot of back then, it was the 808 machines that they would use for the beats. Anyways, got away from that, and now we got all kinds of shit coming out of that. So that's what hip hop was, and today, now, this is what it's become. You got to decide what you like about it, what you don't. But we'll go from there. Beniti, take it away.
Yeah, no, a lot of good shit you dropped, and it's true. Obviously, you know, now we're living in a whole different time as far as where we're at with the music. But if you go back to some of the early history that Ravana was talking about, another mistake people will make. I know everybody's familiar with Rapper's Delight, and that always gets credit as the birth of hip hop. That's probably the first mainstream song, to an extent, that made it to the airwaves. If you know Sugar Hill Gang, they appeared on Dick Clark. You know, they really commercialized that, but it goes back, you know, even further than that. Some of the history that Ravana was talking about with Kool Herc. Now, myself, I'm born in 71, Ravana born in 71. I probably really became influenced that I got to have to start in the very early 80s. Though I know the history of all those groups in the 70s, but I would say the most impactful, the breaking era, probably the first two rap records I ever heard was Divine Sounds, What People Do for Money, Nucleus, Jam on It. When that stuff came out, that probably is what, you know, geared me towards the culture. But the effect that hip hop has had on, if you want to say consciousness, the occult, and we know the word occult just means the hidden or hidden knowledge. It's had an influential impact. And I know we like to do, not just on urban culture. Maybe we could have said that 15, 20 plus years ago, but it's had an impact worldwide. You remember back then, during the time Ravana was talking about, they said it wouldn't last. Remember, as Ravana was saying, they were criticizing it. Oh, what is this shit? Oh, this stuff ain't going to last. They thought it was going to be a fad, but as soon as they saw it wasn't going to be a fad, then everybody wanted to capitalize on it. Now, if we go back during them times, where did it go wrong? In my opinion, this is where it started to shift and change, and not for the better. I do believe, this is just my personal opinion, I believe it was given to us as a gift. I've always said this for years, teaching classes. I believe it was given to us as a gift to speed up our intellect, because it gave people the ability to tap into their creative abilities. That's just my opinion. It brought out, to me, talents in people that you never thought they had that creativeness in them, just in their words. I'm talking about during a time, obviously, when it was actually about lyrics. I'm not talking about now, obviously. And again, yeah, I'm gonna probably be a little hard on the current music now, because it's a little sad and disappointing to me when every song that comes out is about smacking hoes up in the club, drinking Cristal, showing your gold teeth, hanging your chain. It's like there's no creativeness in the music. That's just my opinion. I know the youth don't even know what they're listening to, unfortunately. As long as it's a good beat, they're all in. But I would say the impact, what I wanted to kind of focus on real briefly, what impact has it had on us? Well, I can speak for myself. It's had a tremendous impact. I know myself, Brother Ravana, this is kind of how we came into consciousness. Maybe not the occult at first. Obviously, this was something that, as we evolved in our studies, we started to explore, and it led us to the occult. But I would say it was definitely the doorway to the occult. You know, myself, my first introduction to any spiritual consciousness was the 5% Nation. And that probably came in 85 when Rakim's album came out. And then when his second album came out, 86, is when I actually sought out the lessons. There was brothers in my high school that were 5%. I spent a short time in that, because then afterwards that led me, obviously, you guys know the history of myself and Ravana, and, the Answer Rule of Law and Dr. York, which thank God we're past that now. It's maybe we'll do a whole show on that, our experience in that one time. That would be a good topic. But I was in that for a short while. That was my introduction, and it was highly influenced by hip hop, because back then, when a lot of that music came out, to me, the golden era is the mid to late 80s to the early 90s. That's just my opinion. I think when you go to that era, that was the era that put hip hop to where it is today. Now, where it went wrong, real quick, you got to remember back in the 70s and 80s when brothers were doing things independently, They were making, I mean, obviously we're going back to a time where tapes were still being utilized, vinyl. Well, they were pretty much marketing it and doing it for themselves. But then obviously when these big corporations got a hold of it, we saw how shit started changing. But one thing we have to pay attention to, if you look at during that time, when groups such as Public Enemy, Tribe Called Quest, Jungle Brothers, any of that conscious movement music was coming out in the 80s, early 90s, soon or shortly after that, late 80s, early 90s, they made sure, and look, NWA are pioneers to gangster music, but they did the same thing with R&B. Anytime conscious R&B came out in the 70s, they followed it up with all the pimp shit, you know, just to take from it. There was a lot of conscious R&B music that came out in the 60s and 70s. When you go back to Marvin Gaye, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, the OJs, they were, if you really listen to the music, they were talking about what was going on in society, what was going on in the world. But they say, oh no, we can't have that shit. Then all the Superfly shit came out, pimp stuff, Isaac Hayes and all this other shit. They did the same thing with hip hop. If you really look at it closely, there was a trend, Ravana, if I'm wrong, correct me. I would say pretty much there was a trend in the early 90s where West Coast pretty much took over. When you had, you know, Snoop and all this gangster music started to come out. That was intentionally done. Now, some of it I like. There's some West Coast artists I like Souls of Mischief. I think they're one of the best groups on the West Coast. The Alcoholics, maybe not with their content, but their flow and their production was off the chain. I mean, Dr. Dre, he's nasty with it. You know, wasn't a huge Snoop, Dr. Dre fan. I'll be honest with you, there's no disrespect. I respect Tupac, but I don't really think he was that lyrically gifted, but the stuff he was rapping and talking about, he was dropping some shit. I'm saying from a lyrical perspective and a flow, to me, I mean, he was okay. That's just my opinion. I know a lot of people probably disagree with that. But I think that's where it went wrong because, and again, not to sound conspiracy theory, because I don't want to take anybody to Spookyville, but I think the powers that be that saw the potential in it financially started to exploit it. And then unfortunately, now we have what we have today. I don't even know how, we always used to say this. I know man Ravana always, there's a difference between rapping and MCing. Not everybody's an MC, right? You got rappers. And if you could call that shit that they're doing today rap, I don't know what to say. It's really, even Snoop did a video. Snoop did a video about 6 months ago, and he was talking about the trap music. Yeah. And he was actually criticizing the nursery rhyme flow, the ippity-dippity-doo, the shippity-dippity-da. And he was cracking on it, showing how that's not rapping or MCing, that's rap or rapping. And we got to understand the difference between that. So when we go get to the point where we're creating lists, I want to make it clear, I'm designing my list on creativity, lyrical skills, and lyrical flow. I'm not doing it, look, you can like a beat. There's a lot, I mean, there's some beats I like but can't stand the music as far as modern. But we're not talking about that. What we want to base this on, lyrical skills, creativity. I'm even basing some of my choices on production. Like, you're going to probably be surprised in the group section, a group to me that nobody ever really talks about. And I think in '88, they were way ahead of their time. And I think they upped the ante on production in hip hop was the Ultramagnetic MCs. That Critical Beatdown album, that's a classic. If you never heard that album, or if you're not familiar with Ultramagnetic MCs, Kool Keith and them, go Google that album. If you have an app, just listen to the shit that they were talking about. This is 1988 now, mind you. They have 3 albums that came out, but Critical Beatdown that came out in '88, if you listen to that, it was way ahead of its time as far as production, lyrical content, and lyrical flow. They were on some different flow type shit, but their beats, I mean, they had the most nastiest beats, just dirty, grimy, grungy, boom bap type beats. Nobody was doing that shit like that in '88. To me, they're one of the most influential groups. Again, they were out at a time where it wasn't that widespread mainstream. So, but it's been impactful on the occult, the lessons and the 5%, like I say, first seeing that, the flag, the universal flag, as I've mentioned before in previous videos, I saw that and it caught my attention. That's what, and it led me to ask questions. And I say this today, what if I never saw Rakim? Maybe I would have came conscious, but if I never saw the universal flag back then, would I have inquired? It just opened the doors. And then you go to groups like Public Enemy. And that was on a whole nother level, the shit that they were talking about. When that came out, that was a time me and Ravana talk about that a lot. We were in our rebellious stage because we just graduated high school. I know Fear of a Black Planet came out late 88 going into 89. I graduated high school in 89. We played the shit out of that album.
Yep.
I mean, there was no grooves left on that. Because back then the club thing wasn't that big for us back then. We had basement parties, backyard parties, house parties, and DJs. This is how we did it back then. It's a little different than now. But my whole thing is, those were the groups that opened the doors to, and then obviously Brand Nubian. When Brand Nubian obviously came out 90 with their first album, I mean, the shit that they were dropping in there, all these left a mark. And to me, it pushed, I would assume, some of us our age or older, I think it pushed us in this direction to start seeking knowledge. And I know myself, Brother Ravana, like I said, it was the 5%. Then we went into the Answer Rule Law, and then, through the whole other schools that led to. And then that opened more doorways for us to explore. And then obviously when we tapped into and opened the doors of Egypt, then shit, you got groups like X-Clan, who we haven't even mentioned. Yep. They opened doors on a whole other knowledge level. So I think the impact is there, but where it's gone wrong, it's just become commercialized. And the last thing I want to touch on real quick is what Ravana was saying. We had this discussion not too long ago. It was a couple of weeks ago. There was a video of Big Daddy Kane in Russia. I want just 2 videos you guys should seek out. Now, in the video, this is recently, within the last few months. Just Google Big Daddy Kane. Now, his flight got delayed. He got caught in the airport for I don't know how many hours. And he didn't have time. They lost his luggage. He went into the airport area where you can buy a shirt. He had to buy a new shirt just for the show. And they didn't give a fuck about none of that shit. He was telling them he gets their place sold out. And you're just seeing nothing but Russian people knowing every word to his song. And as he's singing, as he's rapping, you see all these people like in all these different areas, they're breaking out and the breakdancing, they're b-boying on this. This is Russia now in 2019, okay? In 2019, they have more of an appreciation for the culture, and I say the culture because that's what it is, then I hate to say it, you ask the average quote-unquote hip-hop head today, they don't really know anything. They just know the modern-day shit. The last thing, there's an interview that DMX just recently did. And I talked about this on one of the recent videos I did. And he talked about the power of hip-hop, how it stirs the emotions, and what I was talking about earlier, your creative intuition, your ability. Really what it does, you really have to tap into your subjective realm to create, to write these concepts. If you listen to a lot of the concepts behind a lot of the lyrics, it's very creative. So he was talking about, now we all know that DMX been through some crazy shit. We all know he's struggled with drugs. He's been through some wild shit with the authorities. We all know the story. But he was talking about how he was able, what kept him probably alive, and he'd been through some crazy shit, was how he was able to transition what was going on in his head and his emotions through his music. But he said something that stuck out to me, and I had to go back and play it, that part of the video about 10 times, literally. He said, who the fuck wants to be happy all the time? And I said, wait a minute, let me back that up. What the hell did he just say? He said, who the fuck wants to be happy all the time? That's a bunch of bullshit. He said, sometimes there's stuff that goes on in here, and if I can express that through my music, and if I'm riding out to some music and I need to exercise that anger, let me do what I gotta do. He said, it ain't good to be happy all the time. That's some powerful shit. Because it's true. Who the fuck wants to be happy all the time? Think about it. That is not realistic. That is not practical. Because we all have that rage and anger that resides within us that we need to express in some shape, form, or fashion. Hip-hop gave us an outlet to do that. Be real. If you go back and reflect on some music you listen to, why is it during that time you could play a certain song, it stirs up certain emotions in you. It can get you hyped. It can get you amped. It can get you on an intellectual vibe. Hip-hop, more than any other music, has the ability to do that because it taps in to so many portions of our psyche. But if you didn't get a chance, check out that interview by Demon. It's only about 10 minutes. But when he said that, that was some powerful ass shit. He said, who the fuck wants to be happy all the time? I don't want to be happy all the time. But people might take that as being negative, but it's not. But anyway, that's my thoughts on the opening here, the foundation, the music, and then I guess we'll go from there.
Yeah, and one thing to continue adding on to that, if we look at hip hop and then we understand our existence, we see it's basically the expression of a time when the inner city was going through its greatest turmoil. In the South Bronx, it looked like Vietnam war zone. If you've never seen the South Bronx in the 70s, go YouTube it. They will show you that it looked literally like a Vietnam war zone. Burned out buildings,
yep.
Dust everywhere, garbage everywhere. That's the time we were born into. So it was an expression of that. Gangs were they were still there, but they were starting to little by little, get into other things. Look at the expression of the DJ. It literally is an expression of our ancestors. DJ is the drummer. Without the drummer, there is no actual dance circle. There is no actual ritual. If you look at African, you look at Native American, indigenous groups around the world, that drum is the heartbeat of the universe. That drum synthesizes and that basically becomes our heart. And expressing through that, it activates you. What? Your Kundalini. Actually, that's what it does. This is why when you look at music, especially music of indigenous people, African people, things like the drum serves to activate the hips. Notice how the drums hit the hips. Beniti knows this. He's a drummer. He's one of the nicest drummers I've heard. He understands because when they hit the drums in the ritual, there's different rhythms create different movements. Those different movements create that rhythmic energy flow that creates the serpentine energy to flow up. Hip hop DJs also serve the same thing. When we had these house parties, block parties was big back in the days.
That's right.
Okay, when they had that, the DJ had to find what moved the crowd, right? He had to find, or she had to find, what made the crowd dance, what made the crowd move. And as you have a group of people feeling this music, this rhythm, it's actually creating a circular loop of kinetic energy that is helping rise the Kundalini all at once. This is why you can literally feel high when you're listening to certain music. That's because right. It's actually creating that vibrational frequency for the Kundalini to rise, your pineal gland to start to vibrate, which then causes you to have a feeling of transcendence, a feeling of being in a trance state. Those who've been to drumming rituals, and the ones, if anybody here has gone to the ones that Brother Beniti has in South Florida, understands what I'm talking about. It will cause an actual altered state of consciousness. This is why when hip-hop first started, that's what it was doing. It was allowing the youth to express themselves, the DJs to be the drummers who would keep the rhythm, the flow going, keep that feeling good and alive inside. But also, it allowed the dancers to express themselves. It allowed the MCs to rhyme, to express themselves, and the street artists to basically create masterful murals of art, okay? When you look at that, the graffiti or the street art would be the hieroglyphics or the ancient writings that were found on the pyramids and temples throughout the ancient cultures. Still found in us to express it today. When you look at the dancers, that's always been a part of our roots. I mean, all across the planet, I don't care what race, nationality, group, all across the planet, that's always been there. Dancing will always be there, okay? And the MC is basically the mouthpiece. In ancient Africa, they used to call it the griot, which was basically the storyteller that went from village to village discussing, breaking down this information, passing on history, but doing it in a story format. What the hell do you think these original MCs, especially the early ones like Slick Rick, were all about? They were always telling you stories. Cool G Rap telling you stories. They were expressing stories to pass on some knowledge, some information, or things you could identify with. And then that's hip hop in its origin state. 85, well, let's go to 83 to 95. I'm gonna say why. Because yes, although I wasn't all into Run DMC is largely responsible for helping spread hip hop across borders and boundaries. Okay. Oh, yeah. So let's not forget because they really started coming out about 93, 94, 95. One of their first songs, Sucker MCs, right? For anybody who's ever heard that song, that was how hip hop originally sounded like. Right? If you ever hear Sucker MCs 2 years ago, a friend of mine, with that beat in the background, that's boom bap. That's the original sounds that hip hop was created. Okay. Then 85, 86, you had your Rakims, your KRS-Ones, people coming out that were dropping knowledge and information to make you think about your condition, make you think about your situation, make you think about who you are, what you are, things of that nature. And yes, Beniti's 100% on point. If it wasn't for the 5% Nation, the Universal Zulu Nation of hip hop, and the X-Clan, and these groups, they saw the threat, meaning these industry gurus who run the industry, who run the record labels and things like that. They saw the threat that conscious music was having to their existence and how it was affecting the youth.
Had to shut it down.
How it was waking up the youth. And just like every situation, Benita hit it on point. In the 70s and 80s and R&B, they did the same thing. When there was people out there, you know, like Harold Melvin Blue Notes, Wake Up Everybody, right? Teaching conscious information to make you think, to wake you up. They got to bring in the Mac Daddy and, you know what I'm saying, Superfly in there. They always shifted away from consciousness into pimps, players, hoes, you know what I'm saying? And then they did that again. From 80s, middle 80s to late 80s, early 90s, it was all about consciousness, people waking up. There was Poor Righteous Teachers. How many people remember Poor Righteous Teachers? Right? There was
King's Son.
YZ. If people don't remember who YZ is, Return of the Holy One. If you don't remember, go Google this stuff. If you don't know what we're talking about, go Google.
Don't forget King's Son, Righteous but Ruthless.
King's Son, right? He was another brother. There was a lot of 5%ers in there. X-Clan came from a different route. They came more from the Egyptian, Kemetic, Hebrew. They incorporated all of that, and they were dropping some serious bombs. If you go listen to X-Clan now, they were so far ahead of the game to then what people started doing after them. It's like unbelievable. Go watch X-Clan, okay? And then, yes, of course, they brought NWA. They brought in King T. I don't know if some of y'all remember King T.
Yeah, Ace, King T from LA.
Yeah, they brought in them. It was Eazy-E. There was Warren G. There was all these cats, right? And gangster hip hop was taking over for a while.
It was
taking over for a while. Okay, literally, that's all the media. That's all the radio stations would play. The videos. That's all we're mostly about. Okay, but then it shifted back again in the 90s.
Yep. When
you had people like Wu-Tang Clan come out, 93 or so. When Wu-Tang came out, they brought some consciousness back into hip hop, but it became about lyrics again. Okay, you had Mobb Deep,
Lord Finesse,
yeah, Lord Finesse, the Digging in the Crates crew, all of them. Right, you had Lord Finesse, you had who else was up there? Showbiz and AG.
Diamond D.
Diamond D. You had people who were dropping knowledge, but also keeping it about the streets and what it was like to live in that environment, that existence. This is all a part of an evolution of us as a people. Now, today we've gotten far away from that, and it's just become about jumping up and down, You know what I'm saying? Beats, 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 and very little lyrics. So yes, I just wanted to segue back into that. When you make your choices, sure, you're going to like what you like. Everybody likes what they like. But when you make your choices, think about who lyrically, because hip hop's origin is about lyrics. It was about how you captivated the crowd, the audience, and how they came or gravitated towards your rhymes, your flow, what you were saying, okay? And we forget that. Instead of just becoming some music where you just have beats and you just saying anything, it had a purpose to it, right? Don't also forget this. Hip-hop in its very origin activated the warriors inside, the warrior blood inside of us.
That's right.
Hip-hop in its origin was about battling. Nowadays, if you try to battle someone, they want to kill you, they want to shoot you, they get upset, it's wrong, we don't do that. Listen, that's hip-hop is about battling. Why? Because it's about lyrics. And if your lyrics were shitty, you got booed, you got dissed, you got everything. A little story for y'all who haven't seen Hip Hop Evolution on Netflix. Go watch it. He describes in that documentary, which we're up to season 3 now, he describes a lot of hip hop to today. The last season, one of the episodes he had there was how in the mid 90s to late 90s, underground hip hop came back to reclaim what was lost. If you don't know who underground hip hop was, it was Raucous Records, it was Fat Beats Records, it was people like Talib and Kweli Lee, Mos Def.
And that was the era of the mixtape DJs too.
Yeah, it was like Fellowship Freestyle. Yeah, Fellowship Freestyle, Souls of Mischief, Casual. Some of these people were lethal lyrically, but they also had conscious awareness and dropped things to make you think. Stretch and Armstrong, or Stretch and Bobbito, Stretch Armstrong and Bobbito were infamous for that in Europe, for releasing and bringing underground groups out.
That's right.
And that was how the 90s of hip hop was. Well, we get to 2000. What happens in 2000? In 2000, commercial. It's big money now. Hip hop's become big money. So now you have the A&R people looking for certain sounds, looking for certain appearances, certain things, and they get away from just the music, and it becomes about the appearance, one.
And a lot of R&B and fusion too.
Yep, and R&B is involved there to reach a wider, more larger audience, okay? But you still have some groups still dropping some stuff from the 90s to 2000s. Underground hip-hop was still there, okay? Then you had, that's when trap started coming out, and later in the 2000s, and that's where we are today. So what is the purpose of hip-hop? Ask yourself what the purpose of hip-hop was in your life. If it in fact influenced you, made an impact on you, and still does to this day, what is and what was the purpose to you? Because that's what's the most important. What is the purpose of it? And I'll give you an example of what I mean. A lot of people get away from what their origin was, right? And what I mean by that is, okay, now you're into the occult. Cool. That doesn't mean you still can't find a way to incorporate hip-hop into your magic, incorporate hip-hop into your spiritual. And what I mean by that is this. If you have problems expressing your anger, and you need to be angry to kind of like overcome some blockages or obstacles, why don't you try listening to someone like Mobb Deep before you do a ritual, okay? Why don't you try like Shook Ones, especially the Shook Ones remix? If you ever heard the remix before, lethal, okay? Try listening to that before you do a ritual, and you'll feel your anger coming out, because that's what they're promoting in the music, because they came in a time where they're angry about society, the drugs in the hood, how it was affecting people, were killing each other. Do that. Try these kind of things, incorporating it into your own system of what you're creating to be magic. just because you got into the, and I say this all the time, just because you're into the left-hand path now, does not mean you have to paint your fingernails black. Does not mean you have to become gothic. Does not mean that all of a sudden you forgot what the hell you was into, and all of a sudden now you're all into heavy metal, rock music. Sure, you might have liked heavy metal and all that shit, but I'm talking about your main shit. You don't have to put it away because you're in the left-hand path now. And people have done that, and I've seen them do that, and I'm just like, nah, stop. Okay? You can still be yourself. You don't have to change your clothes. You don't have to change your style. You don't got to do none of that, right? And I've said this before, when I'm out and about, you would never know I'm into the left-hand path because this is how I would look most of the time. I'm not going to be out there, look, hey, everybody, I'm a left-hand path scientific guru kind of. No, fuck that. I'm going to just be a regular-looking dude to you. And then when we build, if we talk, then you'll understand what I'm about. But I'm not trying to put a target on myself. You understand? Because people, that's what they're famous for, putting a target onto you and then trying to do what? Control you, label you, and all these things. Nah, fuck that. And yeah, Hermes Access, yes. MOP, that was straight fucking fire when they came out, especially with Annie Up. Yeah. That was straight fire, yo. And then Onyx, of course, everybody remember Onyx. You know what I'm saying? They had a lot of songs, but that was a time of anger. Onyx was like a mad, angry group all the time. If you ever listen to them, they was always angry. But don't let these things be forgotten by you. You don't have to go into this complete change up because now I'm into this, so that means I have to be like what everybody else is into. Then you're losing yourself and you're forgetting about what you're doing it for. Mastering yourself does not mean changing your clothes. Okay? Mastering yourself does not mean stop listening to certain kind of music. Mastering yourself is just that, mastering your own bullshit. But don't forget about who you are. Okay? Don't ever lose sight of who you are. And Bonita and myself know that shit from the inside out, what it means to lose yourself, especially when we were under Dr. Porky Yorkie for years. We lost ourselves because he would brainwash people literally in losing yourself, meaning not so much that we got to always remember we voluntarily got down with this shit. But the mind control was so deep that we would voluntarily just give it back to that mind control thing. So we would change our clothes and we had to dress like this and we had fezzes on. Understand? We had fezzes on that had an ankh on there wearing all black in fucking Georgia when it's 100 degrees outside. Yo, I'm telling you, this shit is ridiculous. We'd be in the middle of the Bronx, in Hartford, wherever, wearing our fucking jalabias with our kufis and our Emmas in the corner,
making some
shit, and you wonder why people would walk by and look at us like we was retarded? Come on now. Think about these things, yo.
Now we know.
Understand? Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I want to back up to one thing you were saying earlier with the drum. That's so important because now when you're talking about the militant aspect of it, even like to me, that first aggression or anger, like Public Enemy was on that Black Panther, NOI militant vibe. I mean, they were saying shit like fuck John Wayne, fuck Elvis. You know, that caught our attention because nobody was saying shit like that. They was addressing issues like racism, the crack epidemic. I know when Ravana was talking about earlier, you know, hip hop always addressed during those times in society when something was made. Obviously, the crack epidemic was big, and it was talked about in a lot of the artists from the early to mid 80s. But the drum, man, I want to back up to that. I can't stress. We know in Africa there's one drum we're all familiar with. It's called the talking drum, right? And we know in certain tribes would use that drum, and it actually, the patterns and the rhythms, this is deep because the patterns and the rhythms, the tones from them, they were able to communicate with each other without having to even speak a word. Now, you have to liken that same concept, like when Ravana was talking about, when you're doing a ritual and you're playing a drum beat, like we can use, for an example, the Ifa pantheon of deities, right? You have a group of drummers called the Bata drummers who have to be initiated. You can't just play drums in them rituals. You're supposed to, I mean, I'm saying according to traditional means, I want to make that clear. We can do whatever the fuck we want. But I'm saying, I'm speaking from a traditional perspective. I just want to make sure I'm clear with that. But to be in that culture if you were throwing a bembe for Shango or Batala, Yemaya or Shun, and we know this from doing work with our godmother, the Bata drummers have to go through a full initiation. It's one of the most, it's a hard initiation. You talk about hazing. If you think a college fraternity goes through some shit, the Bata drummers get their ass beat. And I mean, there's reasons behind it. I'm not going to waste time getting into that now. But then they're taught to master each Orishi or deity or archetype, whatever you want to call it, make you happy, has a certain pattern or rhythm that's played for them. What that pattern or rhythm, I'm going to show you how this connects to hip hop and the music. What that pattern or rhythm represents, it opens up the psyche of the individual who's been initiated or crowned in the mysteries so they can get mounted by the spirit, right? So you would have to know how to play each one of them rhythms, and it calls forth that spirit. Now, how we look at that on the left-hand path, and we've done ritual work down here, myself, Brother Ravana Noon, what comes to mind is the, the voodoo ritual we did down here with Baron Sam.
Or Papa Legba. Which one?
Papa Legba, too. What it does is, see, we look at that on this path as embodying the archetype. This is what we mean when we say to embody. I don't like to use the word possess or mount, because what tends to happen is that creates this concept like some external energy or force is coming from somewhere. All it's doing is unlocking a part of your mind or your psyche, and it opens you up, and you start to now embody. If you've ever been possessed, mounted, whatever the hell you want to call it, you'll know. It's hard to explain in words because it's a feeling. So you can't really explain something that you feel and try to correlate it in words. So it'd be pointless to be rambling on about that. But how does that connect to the music? Because Ravana said something important with the drum, the DJ being at the center of it. That is the foundation. Because them drums, I know what attracted me to hip hop was bass lines, and the drums. Because we like low pitch to medium pitch frequencies. We don't like high pitch frequencies, screechy. For the most part, it doesn't resonate with our being when it comes to frequencies and vibrations. I know when I used to hear them wicked bass lines and them drum hooks, that used to just fuck it out. It had me like crack. I listened to that shit like, this is some nasty shit. And the grimier the beat was, I used to love them beats where you could hear the cackling and the scratching from the vinyl when they sampled it. It just, to me, it spoke to me. Like, that's like how I was feeling on the inside. And that's why production and music and beats is important to me, not just lyrics. Lyrics is huge, don't get me wrong. But I've seen where it works both ways. I've seen cats that have great production, beats are off the chain, but their lyrics are garbage. And then I've seen vice versa. Like, there's been albums that have come out where the dude's lyrical content was off the chain, but his production's just straight garbage. To me, when you have that harmony between both, and I think the drum has to be at the center of it, that's why we get that amped up feeling we were talking about earlier, like when it affects our emotions when we hear a certain track. Like Ravana was mentioning this Shook Ones remix by Mobb Deep. There's something in that hook, that bass, that gets you amped up and elevated, where you're tapping into certain inner emotions. Like I said, if you're using it for a ritual, somebody had typed in, I flashed on the screen, I don't know who it was. Somebody had typed in good to use for a Sith ritual. That makes sense to me because I could see tapping into that aggression. You know what I'm saying? And being able to transition that aggression. Like we always teach on this path, anger, aggression, and rage is not a bad thing if you know how to channel it. It's only bad if you can't control it and it consumes you. And to me, that's what the music was doing. It was giving us an outlet to channel the aggression. But what happened was, again, I say the powers that be, I don't want to sound spooky. The powers that be, those who were controlling the money, saw it as a way to manipulate stuff. And that's where it got off-based and shift. Because they said, wait a minute, they're able now to express their creativeness. They're able to express and release some of their aggression. We can't have that. We can't have that. We got to shift this thing. And then we went through the different shifts, the different paradigms. But all of this is important, and we can't lose sight of the drum. The drum is really what attracts us to the music. Shit, I could listen to breakbeats. I used to get the Tommy Boy Records breakbeats. I could just sit and listen to breakbeats all day. Now, we mentioned rock music. I want to back up. I love music, period. I listen to all types of shit. All right, hip-hop is probably, of course, the main genre that I will always love. But if you go back and listen to some 70s classic rock music, you're going to find a lot of your breakbeats from hip hop is taken from that era. Go back and listen to, I'm telling you, Led Zeppelin was dropping some jewels back in the day. Pink Floyd. Go back and listen to some Pink Floyd. Listen to the music. I'm not talking about that shit they got out now. I don't know what you call that, alternative shit where they just scream. Not that. That's some just fucking nonsense. That's not my thing. But I do pay homage to a lot of 70s classic rock music. Pink Floyd, Off the Chain, Moody Blues. Go listen to some of the music because 70s rock really was influenced by a lot of blues and R&B music. They basically infused. But that's when guys were actually playing instruments, making music. It's music. I mean, look, Led Zeppelin was talking about occult shit. Just go look at their album covers. Go look at their lyrics. Listen to Stairway to Heaven was basically talking about activating your DMT molecule and tripping on psychedelics. And they were talking about things they encountered. The Eagles, Hotel California. But a lot of rappers, anybody know where Big Beat was sampled from? I know you know it, but don't say it.
I'm about to play it. Hold on, give me a second. I'm about to play it. I can only do, I think, 15 seconds before they hit you with copyright. So I'm going to do 10 seconds. But I want to see if people know who sampled this beat because it was sampled over and over and over. But this is the original Big Beat.
Okay. That's what I was going to say.
By Billy Squire. All right, listen. Anybody knows, write it down and we'll ask you at the end.
One of the most sampled beats in hip hop. Run DMC sampled that. I think they were one of the first.
And
who else?
It was UTFO.
UTFO, that's right, yeah.
Roxanne Shante, yeah, that was it. Roxanne, that's the same beat that was sampled over and over and over in hip hop.
Yes.
So,
and that's a rock song. That's a 70s, might be early 80s rock song.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You got to go back. And some of the beats I'm hearing today, they're reincarnating some of these old beats, just covering them up with different tracks. If you listen real close, they're reutilizing them. They're recycling. I think the most sampled beat is probably "Funky Drummer" by James Brown. I think that was used more than any beat to this day, and they still use it. If you can't tell, like I can even tell in the new music, it's been chopped up, diced, and sampled so many different ways. But when I hear it, it don't matter how they chop it up and dice it. I can hear it. It just doesn't matter. But that's probably the most sampled, along with that one that Ravana just played. Probably the most sampled.
Let's do a quick sample of that one. 10 seconds.
Today, when you bank, shop, or browse online, you are more exposed.
All right, let's go. All right, now I'm going to go forward because it's in the break. I'm gonna go forward again.
You gotta get the break.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Yeah.
I used to know this on records. It's hard to do it on a goddamn.
On the vinyl, it's easy to find.
Yeah. Nope, that ain't it. It's coming
almost
up. There. I need a turntable. Damn it. It's in the shot. It's right around here. Hold on. There it is.
That's it right there. Sample beat in hip hop. Slowed down, sped up.
1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is what I'm saying is the impact to it. Again, the drum is what opens you up, opens your psyche up. The drum has the ability, and I've always said that. We've talked about this on older radio shows and classes, etc. We've talked about it individually. If we understood the power of that drum. And I've always said, that's why there's an agenda, you know, let's have a 1,000,000 man march. I've always said, why don't we have a 1,000,000 man drumming? Because if we went to DC and every 1,000,000 people came with drums, we could literally, and this ain't even being spooky, we could literally have an effect, not only on ourselves, but on the magnetic grid of the planet. They ain't ready for that shit. So all the protesting shit, that's to distract us. All that illusionary stuff, that's to keep us, you know, reactive and not proactive. And look, it's done nothing. Look, all that shit we're talking about sports. Look at the whole thing with Colin Kaepernick. It did absolutely nothing. Now, you know, the whole shit with Jay-Z, he's a sellout. Fuck that. I would have took that money too.
Yep.
Right? Like he said, they didn't catch what he said. His response to it was bigger than taking the knee. Right? And then after that shit popped off, just less than a week ago, Kaepernick's agent contacted the 5 teams in the NFL who are down quarterbacks trying to get back in. So it's like, wait, you can't sit here, call people out and criticize them, and then your agent on the slide is trying to get you back into the NFL. At the end of the day, it's about money. It's a bigger picture. The problem is, whether you like Jay-Z or not, he look at the bigger picture. I'm not a huge Jay-Z fan, but from a business standpoint, here's a dude that was so crack, came from the projects, didn't have shit, and I'm not buying, don't get into all that, oh, you know, the Illuminati, fuck all that. That's all conspiracy garbage. None of that shit can be proven. And if you think he's in the Illuminati, then if you're not in the Illuminati, I need to know how you know that. Other than seeing a YouTube video, reading it in a book, or a lecture. If you're not in the Illuminati, please do not tell me Jay-Z and Beyonce are in the Illuminati. That's comical to me. There's no truth to that whatsoever. The point being is, dude did what he had to do to get where he had to get, whether you like it or not. From a business standpoint, when he made that statement, it went over everybody's head. Is deeper than taking the knee. He was trying to let people know that was his way of getting in the door. You understand? That's the way you affect the NFL when you involve money. All the protests and taking a knee, football hasn't lost a beat. Everybody's still watching football. The ratings are still through the roof. Nobody really gives a shit because the only place you hurt them is in their pockets. If you're not taking money out of their pocket, it ain't doing nothing. You can take a knee, protest. Okay. And I'll be there 1 minute. And do all you want. But the bottom line is that we have to look at the impact of all this. I know we haven't really gotten into sports. I know I shifted there for 1 second. The effect that the music has on our consciousness, the effect that it did and opened our psyche is, it's obvious. I mean, that's undisputable. I've always said, and one thing I've mentioned, and I want to throw this at you guys. There's a practice that I utilize, and you might have heard me talk about this. I call it music magic. And you should try this. And I'll give you an example. Now, you can do it your way, play with it your way. With all these apps, the good thing, I miss the old days of touching the vinyl, the smell of the vinyl, peeling the plastic off it. I miss them days. It's like a book. I prefer to have a book in my hands, not like having just an old school book in hand. That's just me. Mm-hmm. The upside to these music apps where you can just upload and download everything and get all this music. What I did, and I incorporate this when I go to the gym, when I'm in my car, if I take a walk, create you playlists. Now, this is how I did it. I did it to decades. This is just how I did it. You can do it to genres. You can break it up into areas of it. Do whatever you want with it. I'm just going to give you an example of what I did, and maybe you can take that and create something in your own way, whatever. So I broke it down into the 70s, 80s, 90s, and from 2000, and from 2010 to 2019. So I went 2000 to 2010, 2010 to the present day. And what I did was I broke it up into decades because when I play the music from that decades, I kind of use it as a method of quote unquote time travel, going back to moments in my life that brought me joy, not just joy and happiness, but that were emotional, impactful. It could have been death, loss of a loved one, a traumatic relationship with a female, a previous relationship that went bad, issues with kids. Joyful things, sadful things, because I found this is a great way to do shadow work and tap into your emotions by going back to them periods. Now I do this when I could be on the elliptical in the gym and I got a certain playlist that I'm playing. Lifting weights, taking a walk in a park. or if I know I'm going to take a long drive. It's really powerful to do. If you're getting ready to take a car trip, maybe an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, or something like that. See what emotions you activate in your mind when you do it to show you how powerful music is. Now, on those lists I create for each decade, I have a combination of everything on there: pop, R&B, house music, hip hop, classic rock, because all those aspects of music have an effect on us to this day. Because me and Ravana, we've even talked about this going back to the old radio shows. Let me give me an example. Let's do this. We've never done this test with anybody here. Who wants to do this test? Somebody volunteer.
Raise your hand. Whoever's first, raise your hand. There's a test.
It's a little exercise.
Pick somebody if you don't raise your hand.
All right, let's Necro Cannon. Let's do you.
Shit, Necro. Yeah.
All right, so Necro, can you unmute him?
Yeah. Go ahead, brother.
All right, so Necro, how old are you? What's your age?
36.
Okay, so all right, so you're right in the cusp. I want you to just name a song. I don't care if when you were a child, a teenager, an adult. Name one of your most favorite songs that stands out to you. I don't care what it is. It could be R&B, hip hop, whatever it is.
Disco Inferno.
Oh wow, that's a good one. Classic. All right, Disco Inferno. Watch this. Watch how right in front of everybody's eyes, Necro Cannon's going to time travel for all you guys right now. When's the first time you heard that song?
When I was 5 years old, actually, is when I heard it because my uncle was playing that and a lot of other music. And I remember dancing to it. It's Burn, Baby, Burn. It's the Inferno. And I was like, I was feeling the heat of it too. Burn this mother down. Sergeant Stu.
Now,
my surprise.
See that? See, he's going there. Now, let's narrow it down. Name a specific point that stands out at your uncle's house, your parent gathering. Name one specific incident that stands out when you heard that song at one time.
When we were traveling from Arkansas to Oklahoma on the road trip. So anytime I start traveling, that's when I usually hear that song playing in my head. What
car were you driving in? What was the car that you took the trip in?
My mama's Gremlin she had.
What color was the Gremlin?
Green.
Okay. Do you remember anybody in the car? What were they wearing and what were you wearing that day?
I was wearing shorts and a white shirt. My uncle was wearing a suit like how he normally does. And my mom, she had on a red dress that day.
And how old were you roughly?
5.
So, all right, we could keep going with this. The point is he was 5 years old. And I'm sure if I keep plugging away at it, he could probably connect to other aspects of inside of his mind that connect just to that song. So I guarantee you, if Ravana threw that song on right now, his mind would just automatically, it's going to snap into the moments because that sound, that vibration, that frequency of that song is connected to that moment in time. This is confirmation that time is an illusion. What we know as linear time does not exist. Time is. We've talked about for years on these shows how it just expands and contracts. We've always used the example of, we always throw rocks in water, right? We always use the example of throwing rock into a body of water where it lands in the center. You could pull this up in basic physics and science. It ripples out from the center. Well, that's really how time operates. To show you that you can utilize music for 2 ways, for doing shadow work and for time travel, literally. And this is what we're talking about, what we've always been trying to say on these shows. Yeah, there's a part of Magick being at your altar, you know, the full-blown robe. I love that. That's one of my things. That's the traditional thing. Creates a great vibe. But we have to make it clear. That's just one aspect of magic. You can do magic by taking the music. Is magical in its sense. It literally is magic if you know how to work with it and utilize it. And hip-hop, that's why I've always looked at hip-hop as a magical tool. It was a gift given to us to speed up our intellect because it opens up. Look, I give it the credit for opening the door to where I'm at now. Literally, you know. So I just wanted to throw that in there. I just thought that's just something. Try the music thing, literally. And I would love to hear. Maybe when we get together again, I would love to just hear you guys' results fucking around with it. Like what motions you tapped into, what it unlocked in your shadow side of yourself. I would just be curious to hear it. I think it would be interesting.
Yep, I think so too. And just by the way, Jay-Z became the first billionaire in hip hop. Just to let you know, he's now officially a billionaire. He's worth $1 billion. So he's the first person in hip hop to become a billionaire. So regardless of what people say, you like him or don't, he knows what he's doing when it comes to business. Okay?
That's right.
Don't ever forget that, because we're still in the physical. You gotta succeed. You gotta have some level of success as a reflection of the work that you're accomplishing internally. It should be an accomplishment in the physical as well. We can't forget and we can't disconnect that. All right. Here's another sample real quick. I'm gonna see if I can find the breakbeat here. There it is.
It's gonna take a minute. I can give you this one.
All right, that was sampled a lot by people. That's Dance to the Drummer's beat. And that was Herman Kelly.
That's right.
And I don't know if you knew this, Beniti, but that was actually done in Hialeah, Florida in 1978.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, Hialeah, Florida in 1978, TK Disco.
Wow.
Record company and TK Productions Incorporated did it down there. All right.
Wow.
So I'm just finding some of these samples so y'all can see where these different things, beats, break beats came from to create what became known as hip hop today. How we varied our samples. Our samples weren't all just from R&B. They weren't all just from jazz. They were from rock music. They were from Latin music. They were from all kinds of music. Because music is there to basically, it moves your soul. It opens you up. It expands your consciousness. That's what music's there for. So don't think that in your music you can't be creative in itself. Yes, we're talking about hip hop, but everybody, I'm sure, has other alternative styles of music that they love, whether it's R&B, whether it's jazz, whether it's classic rock, whether it's heavy metal, whether whatever it is. That's what kind of got you, and I'm just piggybacking off what Beniti said, that's where it got you where you are today. If it wasn't for KRS-One and Rakim and Jungle Brothers and X-Clan, I don't know. Eventually, yes, I will agree. I will probably eventually have gotten into the occult anyways, but I got there a lot quicker. You understand? I got more into learning about the self, learning and expanding my consciousness. Music gave us that. It opened a door for that. And this is why a lot of times when you look throughout the history of music, music helped shifts in consciousness occur throughout time. And it's still doing that to today. The difference is that how it's being controlled to either close your consciousness or to bring some other aspect out of you. All right, so for sake of time, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go around the room and do our top 5 MCs. First, me and Beniti will go. I'll let Beniti do his first. Top 5 male MCs. And then you got to list the top 5, and then you got to give a reason for why 1 and 2 are 1 and 2. All right, so let's go. Hold on.
Yeah. Now, and it's a little bit hard for me. I don't know. I mean, my 1 and 2 is probably in line. My probably 3, 4, and 5 may not necessarily be in that order. Because I think they're pretty much equivalent in my opinion. I had number 5. I had Big L. I think Big L is one of the most underrated MCs. I think if he didn't die so early, he probably could have been more impactful, and I don't think he's talked about enough. I know some of you might be familiar with him. If you're not, I would go check out his work. He was real popular during the boom bap era, mid '90s. He was down with Digging in the Crates crew, Lord Finesse, Showbiz AG. He was during that era, but Probably one of the most impactful MCs. His flow over beats was off the chain. His production, off the chain. Now, he was a little graphic. He talked a lot about street life. That was his lyrical content. So he focused on that. But he was a good storyteller. So I have to have him at number 5. It was tough for me. At number 4, I wrestled with this a little bit. I had to put Cool G Rap there. Cool G Rap, probably the Butcher Shop, one of my favorite songs. Road to the Riches is a classic album. I think that he's another MC that I didn't like Cool G Rap later in his career when he got a little too into that gangster movement. Like Ill Street Blues to me was his last album. His first 2-3 albums were probably classic, but he still had the lyrical flow. I just didn't like his lyrical content when he got to the later stages of it. But DJ Polo was a wicked producer. If you're not familiar with his work, check his work out. So I had him at number 4. At number 3, who did I put at number 3? Man, I know who my 2 and 1 are. I'm trying to remember who I had at number 3 here. Give me 1 second to. Damn. Hold on, I get it. Damn, I'm drawing a blank on my number 3. Because I had jumbled that. I know it goes back to the 90s. Hold on. But anyway, let me go through my other 2 while it come to me. My 2 and my 1. I'll get back to my 3. And I have Big Daddy Kane. Obviously, Big Daddy Kane was always, you don't know who my 1 is. Big Daddy Kane, to me. Oh, I know I had at my number 3. You guys you may or may not be familiar with it. Let me back up. I had actually, believe it or not, some might disagree with this, Chub Rock. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Chub Rock.
Of course.
Chub Rock, man, the story with Chub Rock is unique. Chub Rock is actually, he had one of the highest IQs, college graduate. I forgot what Ivy League school he went to. But he was born and raised in the streets of Brooklyn. But if you listen to his lyrical flow, his production, to me it was next level. To me, he was a bit ahead of his time. He was popular probably late 80s, early 90s. He put out about 3-4 albums. He goes, to me, again, under the radar. 2, I have Big Daddy Kane, self-explanatory. Obviously, the first 3 to 4 albums of Big Daddy Kane, he got a little commercialized at the end of his career when he came out with Prince of Darkness, by the way. He has an album called Prince of Darkness.
Yeah.
And that was his last. After the Prince of Darkness, I think he started to go south because he tried to get a little too commercialized. But those first 2 Big Daddy Kane albums, classic. If you have not really sat down and listened to Long Live the Kane and Roar, go listen to him. Classic. His flow, he was definitely ahead of his time. Mr. C was probably at that time, was probably one of the best DJs, producers out there at that time, late 80s, early 90s. And Kane's flow over tracks it speaks for itself. And he was probably he probably was the innovator of speed rhyming. You know, before there was Twister and all them dudes, there was Kane. Kane made that style famous. If you go back and listen to him, he was the first speed rapper who could just and just go through it. That was Kane. And then obviously, you know what my number 1 is.
Of course.
There's no question, because I think if he could still hang with any of them today, it's definitely Rakim.
Yeah.
That's Rakim's voice, his flow, and the shit he's talking about. And the thing with Rakim is you hear every word he's saying crystal clear. One thing my father used to say, growing up, there was 2 rappers he used to like when I used to play it around the house. He loved LL Cool J and Rakim because he said he could hear what they were saying, because they were clear what they were talking about. And that's the other problem today. A lot of these rappers come out, I don't even understand what the fuck they're saying, let alone trying to figure it out. But those are my top 5. That's what I have in my top 5.
All right, so let me go next. I love all those top 5. The problem is with these picking top 5, there's a lot of goddamn MCs out there that you gotta figure out, go over. All right, but anyways, I'm gonna start with my number 1, and I'm gonna start it with. Wait a second. I'm gonna start it with this intro. God damn these damn commercials, man. Give it a second. This was my number 1. You'll know exactly when you hear the beat.
KRS-One.
Anyways, all right. So yeah,
It's over.
is my number one. Let me say why, but I'll go back to why later. All right, I kind of cheated because I got a 5, but then I got 5 A, B, and C. So I'm gonna just say these 5 A, B, and C. All right. Big Daddy Kane is there. He's number 5A. 5B would be Big Pun, because he came out with a flow that was really unique to his time. Considering the dude was over 400 pounds, the way he could just flow without taking a breath is incredible. And a lot of people, and I don't know if you ever watched, they have clips of it on YouTube, but if you ever heard Black Thought freestyle, Black Thought from Roots is nasty as hell. Boy.
Yes.
You ever heard him? He is lyrically gifted and nasty. He could rhyme he did like a 10-minute straight rhyme. Anyways, number 5, Big L. Big L, when I heard him and Jay-Z do a freestyle together, and he basically just stole it from Jay-Z. And Jay-Z was known at that time now, mind you. He was
I remember that freestyle.
Big L just murdered it that day on that freestyle. All right. Big L's flow is really unique. He's got a clear voice, so you know everything he's saying.
And Ron, I tell him that a lot of people say Jay-Z stole his style from Big L.
Yeah, they do say that. They do. And they also say Jay-Z stole his style from Jazz or Jazzo.
Jazzo, yeah.
Cool G Rap, number 4. Cool G Rap, his flow is like it's just different. It's different. It's like he rhymes slow, but he's like rhyming also 2-3 tracks at one time. If you hear his voice, it's just the way it sounds. It's different. His content, he could talk about anything. He was like a storyteller. See, that's one of the things that hip-hop people have gotten away from is telling stories. A lot of Cool G Rap songs were telling stories, okay? Here's number 3. Some of y'all may be familiar with him. Some of y'all may not. Pharoah Monch. Pharoah Monch of Organized Confusion. One of my favorite MCs of all time. Nasty. He's got lyrical content for days. He's still out there actually making records, and some of his new stuff is dope as heck too. But he was way ahead of time in his flow and his lyrical content. He was way ahead of his time during that time. Number 2, Rakim. There's no one like the R. You know, I keep looking on the screen here, and there's a person here with the R in the room. I wonder if that's Rakim himself. But anyway, well, it says the R, but we'll see who it is when we get around to it. And like I said, number 1, KRS-One. I think maybe as I'm a little biased being I'm from the Bronx. But 2, I've seen KRS-One battle live, and that dude would eat people up when he battled them live. Like literally, he would beat them up. I remember when he battled Melly Mel at the Sound Factory, tore that dude up, tore him a new asshole. Anyways, KRS-One in a battle rap, especially, he's nasty. 2, when he came out, he went straight at you. And 3, he started his second album, he started dropping more knowledge, more information. That kind of opened me up too as I got older. All right, so let's go around. We're going to start with Demetrius. Demetrius, your top 5 MCs.
All right, mine is a little all over the place because here in the South, it was a different experience. We're considered to be out in the jungle. So I got Heavy D and Biggie at number 5. Why? Because these guys were big. These were big dudes, and they were just smooth. And it gave us big guys hope that we could be cool too.
Heavy D was on. I forgot about Heavy.
Oh yeah, and he had and I liked his style. I just liked the way he rapped. Let's see. Let me go to number 4. I got my list written down on a piece of paper all over the place. Y'all were bringing back all these memories. Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock. You know those guys. To me, that's just classic. I'm gonna try to keep this short because we're short on time. He mentioned Big Pun. Yeah, Big Pun and Fat Joe, because those are my Latin brothers.
Yeah, Big Fat Joe's off. Yep.
Yep, I like those guys. KRS-One, because very spiritual. I'm on that Vedic Hindu tip, and that's what he's on too. I like that. Let's see, where am I? Number 3, Nas. I like Nas because he teaches, and that's a big deal for me with these guys that do rap. That's why I like a lot of the older rap and stuff, because it's teaching, it's educating. You have a good rhythm. When I first heard this song, I almost flew out of my seat when he just started breaking it down and really teaching and educating. Let's see what else I got written down. We got Grandmaster Flash. Again, I'm just going classic. But my top one, I don't know if we consider him an MC or not, but I kind of consider him like a source, is African Bambaataa. That's what I grew up with.
That's good. That's good.
That's what I grew up with. That's when he talked about rhythms and music that will take you back. If I hear Planet Rock or any of those songs out of that period, that does the same thing for me. Because in my neighborhood with my family and neighbors and whatnot, that's all them people played.
Yep.
They played that stuff, and it's like ingrained.
Yes, it is. That was from that era.
Yep.
Nice.
And of course, you got all my other run-ups like Run DMC, because they were, again, classic people. Digital Underground, I love them on stage with the damn pyramid.
It's tough. It's tough to do this because it's like sports. When you're trying to compare different eras, it's a little rough.
Yeah.
And that's why I said I'm probably going to be a little more biased, and I know my list was going to be a little more old school. Because I agree with a lot of the MCs, Ravana, and you just brought up. But I was basing my list, if you had to give me 5, and I agree, I think any of the ones we mentioned up until this point could be in the top 5. I don't know about African Bambaataa. I think he's more artist. You're right.
Yeah.
I don't really consider him really an MC.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he has an effect on hip-hop culture for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Appreciate that, Demetrius.
Good.
All right, so we're going to go to JR, the Star Seed. You next, brother. All right, I'm curious to hear because – hold on.
I'm good.
Have you ever heard JR's beats?
Mm-hmm.
He produces beats, JR, the Star Seed.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, you got to hear some of his beats, so he's nice with it. Nice producer. All right, JR, I'm curious to hear your 5, bro.
Okay, bro. I got like a 1 through 5, but I got an A and a B, and I'm gonna start with 5B. My guy, Sticky Fingers, bro, just like he speaks from his soul. He's like another person. You know what I mean? It's wild. I can't even explain it all the way. Dude is deep, and he's real creative. You know what I'm saying? My 5B, Master Killer. You know, I just like his style. I like how he kept a low profile. When he was called to the table, he bring that heat. 5A, Jizza. You know what I mean? One of the smartest ones to me. You know what I mean? He reminded me of Rakim. You know what I mean? Like my Rakim, you know? Yep. Number 4B, Cormega. I just, he was like the underdog to me. You know what I mean? The Queensbridge. I liked him. Yep. Number 4A, Nas. You know? The pyramid. You know what I mean? The little Egypt thing, you know what I mean? It just took me, you know, when I was a little kid, man. Master Ace, 3B.
I wrestled with Master Ace.
That was my guy. And don't laugh at me, but I grew up with this cat, MC Hammer. His energy was just like fire, you know.
Hey, we should be real,
real, brother. That's your shit.
Yeah.
But I just want to know, you didn't have the hammer pants though, right? You didn't wear
Nah. Okay. All right. Number Number two. I had to do 2C. Prodigy. I just, you know what I mean? I just followed him all the way when I was young. You know what I mean? Like ever since when he was locked up too. I don't know, son. He just like upgraded. He went from shitty dude to like intelligent, spiritual guy. You know what I mean? I fucks with him. Yeah. This guy, he touched me. Like I think he's like the captain of hip hop to me. You know what I mean? When I was growing up, was KRS-One. Like that whoop whoop sound of the police. That joint had me. You know what I mean? 2A, Tupac.
Okay.
That, I know, you know what I mean, a lot of people don't, but just what I was going through at the time, Tupac, he hit it all. He hit it all for me. And number 1B, Corrupt Young Gotti. Corrupt, I don't know, all his words and everything. It just like he grab a word out the air and then it grab another word. Oh, I can rhyme these words. You know what I mean? And the one that touched my soul, you know, I seen him in concert in DC. It was just like his man, guru, you know, it was unbelievable. You know what I mean? But that's what I got. That guy was the truth to me.
Indeed.
Word.
Appreciate that, bro.
All right, thank you.
Maybe
That's a good list, man. That's a real good list.
Yes, it is. Maybe before we finish up.
Except for Hammer, I'd probably take him off, but anyway.
Hammer,
I'd probably take him off. But it's personal. I get it. It's got more personal sentiment.
But
all right, on.
Yeah, maybe before we finish up, you could put a quick beat on there so Benita can hear it. All right.
Yeah, I would like to hear it.
All right, bro.
All right.
Find your best, dude. The one of your favorite beats you produce before we get off. So I'll be back through. All right. Duma. Duma is another DC brother, so we're gonna see.
Dude.
Hey,
Duma.
yeah, all right. I'm gonna start with my number 5. My number 5 will be Schoolie G. You know, I like his street quality of his raps back in that day, and you know what I'm saying. A lot of Philly stuff that came out, I was really digging.
A lot of good shit.
Like Philly was like 4 hours away from here, so yeah. My number 4 would be Coogee Rap. I liked his lyricism. His style was unique because of the list he had with his rhymes. So yeah, you know, like Road to the Riches, Ill Street Blues, all those joints, man.
Yep.
My number 3 would be KRS-One. Because you know, what can you say about Chris? Chris was just dope. You know what I'm saying? My number 2 would be Kane, Long Live the Kane. Because you know, nobody does it better. My number 1 would be, of course, Rakim. Because you know, that was like the first 5% of that scene. Drop It Down. Back in when I first seen it back in '89, they had me curious, but I didn't become a 5% until like '90. So yeah, so that's fine. I do got to give honorable mention to Jaz-O, because he was like the first, like I guess, Ansar MC that came out at the time. So I'm gonna give him honorable mention.
Jaz-O actually lived with us in the Brooklyn community, and that was '89, '90. He actually lived with us. Also, one dorm over from us in the Brooklyn. I don't know if you guys remember Tragedy, Intelligent Hood.
Yeah.
Yeah, he also lived in the community with us. And what's his name? Buckshot from Black Moon.
Yeah, but that's crazy, Buckshot.
Yeah,
I know they were from Bushwick.
They all lived in Bushwick with us during '89. 90 before they were who. Well, matter of fact, Intelligent Hoodlum was probably the only one at that time that was doing music simultaneously while he was living in the community. The others still, they didn't really evolve into, you know, who they were till kind of towards the tail end of that. But you brought up Philly, man. I got actually on my top 5 groups, I got a group from Philly that I know nobody has on there. But another MC from Philly that doesn't get the credit, Steady B.
Oh, yeah.
Steady B is nasty.
He was the shit back then.
Yeah, man.
All right, Doom. Appreciate that, bro.
Thank you, brother.
We'll be back through again. Necro. Get off that damn game, Necro. Can't hear you. Unmute yourself, brother.
Yeah, I was unmuted the whole time. You just muted me.
All right, cool.
I'm gonna start with my number 5, which would be Exhibit, because during the time that I had with some chaos, he actually flowed through with me through that. My next one will be Busta Rhymes, because of how he was when I was growing up. Like he really motivated me in regards to writing and the like. Mystical next, because fellow military man, and how he would put, you can feel it in his music of what he was saying by his vibration in itself. So that's what captivated me and also made me really want to write. Next after that would be Nate Dogg at my number 2, because I was feeling his rhymes, and there was a point in time like I was emulating Nate Dogg, so to speak, not to the totality of what I wanted to, but just enough so that way I can kind of get a certain mentality going for myself versus, being weak in infidel lights, where I could actually have that strength and that backing. And then my number 1 for me would be Chameleonaire. The reason why Chameleonaire, because of his flow, for 1. For 2, because he's definitely real about his. There was no fakeness or the likeness of it. He wasn't stunting, playing around, or nothing else like that. And just how he was able to, like I said, put his words together and flowing it to the point where it amplified my writing capabilities as it is, and it allowed me not only to write poetry, but as well to write actual music and also start rapping. And that also got me into freestyle as well too. So that's the reason why he's my number 1. And those are my top 5 that I have personally, just to cut straight through it.
Cool. And Necro, which state did you grow up in?
I'm a military brat, so it was from Arkansas, Oklahoma, and mainly here in Texas.
Okay. Gotcha.
All right, cool. All right, Hermes Access.
All right, so I got a few here. I mean, I guess I didn't really put them in like a direct order, but I do have my 5, and I was up there, with like Big L, and I just mind because I grew up in the '90s pretty much, so Big L definitely being one of them, with delivery, and just being able to resonate with the time and going through some of the same things, so. Like I agree with Beniti said. Like if he didn't die at an early age, it probably would have went a long way for him, and would have been, it's just it seems like it's those things of those deaths that shifted the whole aspect of the game really. And if a lot of these legends were still left, I think a lot of things would have been different. But yeah, because I don't think they would even allow what's going on today. But anyways, I got Big Pun on there definitely, with the creativity and. Just his style in general, that's always been someone who, I don't know, it's just like the way he was able to put words together, it was a whole story. I mean, it was fast, but, he was slow. I mean, he was just versatile. So definitely had Busta Rhymes on my list, as far as creativity, just seeing the videos and hearing the music and the fact that he's still doing it today, So I have Rakim on there. Mos Def, and I threw Biggie on mine. So yeah, that's my top 5 list that I got. But like that's no definitive order. I didn't really get to label them in any order, but just as a top 5, that's what I just want to throw out there today.
That's a good list. That's a good list.
And I appreciate that, bro. We'll be back through for the group. The R is here, but the R. I was wondering if that's where I came because it just said.
I was gonna say same shit.
Yeah, the 18th letter. But it doesn't look like they have a microphone. So, R, if you could hear us, if you could log off and log back in, maybe we could hear you.
Or type in your top 5.
Yeah, or type in your top 5 in the chat room if you have access to that. Type in your top 5. All right. Hopefully you can hear us, so we go from there. Yeah, Dimitri, towards the end, I'll let you bring up that one thing. Don't let me forget, all right? All right, so All right, Beniti, take it away. Top 5 females. Let's just run
female. All right, this I'm probably gonna throw some names at you. You might or might not be familiar with. Antoinette. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Antoinette.
Yep.
Attitude. I think Antoinette's career could have lasted longer if she didn't try. She came out trying to diss everybody before she was too big for her bridges. Her mistake was going up against probably my top female MC, which I'll get to later.
Yep.
So I had Antoinette at number 5. I had Jazzy Joyce at number 4. Jazzy Joyce was a Queens MC. She was from right around my way. And she was down with Howie T and them, who also did Salt and Pepper's music. Jazzy Joyce had a good run in the late 80s, and then she just disappeared. But she had that like party flow, but not that corny party flow. She was nice with it. If you listen to any of her music, you could pull up. I think she's definitely worth looking into. Number 3, I had Queen Latifah. Old Queen Latifah. Because before Queen Latifah became commercialized, she was down with that whole Jungle Brothers, Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul movement. And when she first came out, she was off the chain. So I had Queen Latifah at number 3. My number 2, you may not be, she's out of Philly, Bahamadia. Bahamadia was off the chain. Her flow was different. And one thing I must say about, I like a lot of groups out of Philly, a lot of MCs out of Philly. I don't know what it is. I was just always vibed and resonated. Even old Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince, first 2 albums, classic. But I have Bahamadia at number 2, her production, her flow. And one thing I always liked about Bahamadia, she didn't sound the same on every song. She was able to change it up. And I just thought I can't remember offhand who did a lot of her production, but they did a good job of creating beats that was suitable for her flow if you listen to her production. Good music. And of course at number 1, I had to put MC Lyte. MC Lyte is my favorite all-time female MC. I remember her first album, Light as a Rock. I thought it was a dude when the album first came out. When I first heard the first single off the album, I thought it was a young teenage boy. And I found out after another group who I wrestled with, if you guys are familiar with Audio 2, Milk D is her cousin. And he's actually who put her on. But she sounded just like Milk D. So when I heard it, I thought at first it was Milk D. But say, you sound funny. And then I found out it was MC Lyte. If you listen to her on her first album, she can come off sounding like a young teenage boy. Probably after her 3rd album, she got a little commercial for me, but her first 2-3 albums were classic. MC Lyte didn't sound like no female out there. She didn't sound like no dude out there. And I believe back then, and she did, if you went to places like the Rooftop, Union Square back in the day, she was battling with the top male MCs at that time, and she had no fear. So I respected her because I always looked more at, I know we categorize a male, female, but MC Lyte always carried herself as, she just considered herself an MC. She didn't really separate herself with that male, female stuff. So I undoubtedly had her at 1 beyond a shadow of a doubt. That's my top 5 female.
All right, let me do mine now. Number 5, I agree with the Antoinette, definitely. She's one of my favorite, but she did get overboard with trying to diss the hell out of everybody. That she did. She didn't even give her a career a chance before it got torn down. Number 4, if you ever heard this girl live and you ever heard her freestyle, Lauryn Hill was nasty as hell when you see her.
I wrestled with her.
Nasty, and she could sing. She was just nasty, boy. I remember when I saw her in concert and she came out, she did a freestyle with the Fugees. That was it. I knew it. Bahamadia, I definitely was going to say her too, because Bahamadia, her flow is just, it's different. It's unique.
Different.
It's like, it's a slower flow, but her lyrical content is on another level. One of my favorite female MCs, Queen Latifah, always the original, all hail the Queen Latifah. When she was with DJ Mark, the 45 King, that's when she was.
Oh, yeah. That's when she was the best, yeah.
Yeah, that's Latifah. And then number 1, MC Lyte. Always was MC Lyte. Yep. I had a crush on MC Lyte back in the day, so it was her flow, and she was nasty, boy. She would battle anybody, and diss the hell out of anybody because people always thought that, oh, you're a female, you don't know.
Wow.
Yeah. And honorable mention was Roxanne Shante.
I wrestled with her, Ravana. I wrestled putting her on that list.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's go. Now we're gonna go to, all right, top 5 female MC. Demetrius, if you don't have 5, just say the ones you have. All right. Go ahead.
All right, I got 5. Mine are a little bizarre. At number 5, I got Little Kim. She's just nasty. That's all.
Her first 2 albums, classic.
Yes. Number 4, I got Eve. Mainly, I had a crush on Eve.
Yes. I knew you were gonna say that shit.
That's all. MC Light. Now I like MC Light because it is just what y'all mentioned. She was a strong. She had just a powerful, strong spirit, and I like that, and that's why I enjoyed her music. Now I have number 2, Queen Latifah. Again, old Queen Latifah. Welcome to my queendom. Yes, that for me, just as a young man hearing that, I was like, damn, here's this melanated goddess with the crown and everything. Everybody stood up. But my number 1 is Missy Elliott. 1, because she's weird and she's creative.
Yeah.
Yes, she is.
That's a strange broad, but she's really creative.
Yeah.
I like it. I like those 5, bro.
That's an interesting list, Dimitri. It's pretty interesting.
Yep.
All over the road. Gemini.
Good road. Yeah, Gemini like me crazy. Hey, you're Gemini like Bethany and me too, you know. So,
oh, snap.
Yeah, go figure. All right. JR, the Star Seed, top 5 female MCs.
I know this is going to be good.
Yo. All right. My number 1, like y'all said, Bahamadia. You know what I mean? From Philadelphia. She's sick with it. You know what I mean? Like, I love her right there.
Yep.
Number 2, Lauryn Hill. Lauryn Hill is just like Ravana said, like she got best of both worlds for real.
Yep.
MC Light, like Dimitri said, she was powerful. You know what I mean? And she got a roughneck, gotta get a roughneck. That was my shit. You know what I'm saying? If you don't know about her, like I seen her in concert with the Roots, Jean Grey, sick with it.
Well, MC Light was always like that hip hop chick in the 80s and 90s. She dressed with the baggy stuff, the baggy, but retained her sexiness though, even though she was, you know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Yep.
The door knocker earrings, bamboo earrings. Yeah, she had that.
The next, Rhapsody. I believe a new female MC out. She's sick with it to me. Very creative, and she speaks truth.
Okay.
Queen Latifah. Since he was with his boys, he tried to break fly. I punched him dead in his eye. Yo, that was my shit. I got 2 bonuses. Foxy Brown, she was just so dreamy, and
I wrestled with her too.
and Little Kim, dreamy. Yeah, I was just like, but yeah, that's what I got.
That you talking about Little Kim before the surgery or
yes,
before?
Yes, way before.
Yes.
Just making sure. All right. Appreciate that, JR.
That's a good list there, JR. Good list.
We're gonna come back through 2 more times for you, JR. One more. The next list is the top 5 hip hop groups of all time, and then the last time is for you to drop a beat on them. All right.
All right.
We'll be back. All right, Duma, top 5 female MCs.
I'm gonna start with the honorable mention. I have to give honorable mention to the Lady of Rage from. If you never heard the Vainglorious Law album, that joint is ahead of its time.
Yeah, it was.
Also, Lin Q, who was known as Isis too. I have to give her honorable mention too. Yeah. My number 5 will be Bahamadia.
See, nobody mentioned Yo-Yo. I forgot. Nobody mentioned. But anyway.
My number 4 would be Rod Digger from Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was nice. My number 3 would be Ice Cream Tea. I don't know if y'all remember Ice Cream Tea.
I remember Ice Cream Tea.
I remember.
Yeah, she has some joints, man. I like their wordplay. Number 2 would be Latifah, All Hail the Queen. And like everybody else, my number 1 is MC Light.
Yeah, got it.
You know what I'm saying? What can you say?
All
I
right.
wrestled with Remy Ma too. I was wrestling with her on that list because I like her flow too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's my honorable though. She's there. All right. Appreciate that, Duma. All right. Hermes Access.
All right, so you know, I had Lauryn Hill on there, one of mine as well. Like that's one of my top. You know, it's her delivery, her style, and like you said, the fact that she's able, you know, you can flip it from singing to, you know, actually being lyrical with it. So you know, that's definitely a favorite. I threw Rod Digger up there on my list. You know, I haven't heard that mentioned actually, but yeah, she was up there, and especially when she collaborated with Busta and all that back in the day. And you know, I didn't. You know, I was actually surprised to hear Bahamadia because I had that on my list. But you know, I'm from Philly in general, so you know, me hearing that, I was like, it brought me back to a time. And I had Eve on the list, you know, because there was a time she was just holding it down for Philly, and I was, you know, just to be able to hear that that sort of delivery. You know, she definitely told some stories within her lyrics. You know, that was definitely appreciated. I mean, not necessarily that I was going through them, but you know, I saw some people within my family going through some of those similar situations, and so yeah, I had Foxy Brown up here as one of them. You know, that was, you know, classic. And I guess, you know, I would throw Little Kim up there, like before the surgery, like I said. But you know, that was, you know, that was, you know, more my time. So, what was that?
No, I was laughing. You're right. Before the surgery.
Yeah. But yeah, that's I guess that would be my top 5 for the female MCs there.
All right. Dope. All right, Necro. Next.
All right.
Females.
Well, I'll say this: all my top 5 females is because I like the lyrics and I had a crush on each and every last one of them. So I'm just gonna tell the truth. My number 5, Foxy Brown, of course, especially when she was working with Jay-Z at one point in time. There was a certain song that they did together, which I listened to over and over again. Eve, of course, because of her appeal. Really like that. Lauryn Hill, I used to listen to her voice a lot because during times when I was going through stuff, when I would listen to that song, that thing that really got me going, and also made me have more standings for myself as well too, and made me start thinking. Second one is the Brat because I liked her style, how she was, you know, how she was gangster with it, but she also was trying to be seductive in the same instance on a multitude of different areas. That's just me. And then my number 1 is Missy Elliott, like favorite song, which actually got me through a lot of childhood things that I went through. Just the beat alone was Why You All in My Crib. Like I changed up the words a lot, but that beat by itself and the fact to where I really I had major crush on her. She is my number 1. To this day, anytime it starts raining, I automatically start saying, I can't stand the rain. Start doing the beats because it had that much of a profound effect on me. So those are my top 5. But number 1, Missy Elliott. She's
Cool.
Yes.
That's some cool shit. Like that.
Dope. All right. So now we're going to finish off with the top 5 groups.
All right. So this one was a little easier for me. I mean, there's probably a lot that should be on the list. But obviously, Father had Jungle Brothers. Done by the Forces of Nature is one of my favorite albums of all time. The production on there, they incorporated a lot of samples. That was probably the first album that incorporated a lot of African drum rhythms over SP-1200 drum tracks. The bass lines on that album are off the chains. Plus, I love the way all those brothers rap. That album came out in 1989. Why I like the Jungle Brothers. I mean, their first album came out in 88, but that one, summer of 89, was probably the best summer of my entire life. And that album has a strong connection to it, and they were so popular at the time. But my favorite song that they probably did on an album was Black Woman. If you ever heard that song or not, you should definitely go. The whole album is dropping mad jewels. It's a very conscious album, what one would consider conscious as far as spirituality. But if you listen to the production and the beats, they found some hooks and samples that nobody was using. And again, there's probably 4 or 5 tracks on that album where they sampled live African drumming, which I thought was creative, and how they mixed that with hip hop beats. They were probably the first to really do that on a wide scale level. So I got them as my 5th group. Number 4, I got Brand Nubian. To me, Brand Nubian took me, especially their first album. I even like really, I don't really think there's really a whack album that, in my opinion, that Brand Nubian did. But their first album, obviously, that beat, Slow Down, when that shit used to bump at the parties, forget it. Everybody would be on the floor just, whatever, doing whatever it is they were doing. But Brand Nubian, I got at number 4. Not necessarily in this one. I wrestled with 3 and 2, but I put Wu-Tang at number 3. Wu-Tang, obviously, is the innovator of group of all groups, in my opinion, and probably the biggest group outside of maybe MC, who, by the way, we didn't mention earlier. I know I wrestled with putting them on the list, but I don't have them on my list, but I have them as an honorable mention. Remember, they're the only rap group that's in the Rock Hall of Fame in Cleveland, Ohio, which a lot of people may or may not know. They're the only rap group that's in the Rock Hall of Fame, because they're given the credit when Walk This Way came out with Aerosmith, when they did the remix. That's when rap started popping up on MTV, and it kind of became mainstream. So actually, if you also don't know, next town over from where I grew up in Hollis, Queens, they got a Run DMC museum. If you're ever in Hollis, you could actually go see it. It's a whole museum dedicated to Run DMC. It's crazy. I didn't have them on my list, but I wrestled. So I had Brand Nubian at number 3. Probably going to surprise you who I have at number 2. These cats are from Philly. I actually met them. They actually started out on Warlock Records. But their first 3 albums, to me, are classic. Their first one, Danger Zone, is off the chain. Tough Crew. I got Tough Crew at number 2. Tough Crew out of Philadelphia. If you ain't heard any of their music, Danger Zone, the first 2 albums off the chain. Overlord Ice Dog, to me, is one of the most underrated MCs. And a lot of those cats in that group were Puerto Rican, believe it or not. They were from the north side of Philly. I believe it was just the one cat. It was 1 or 2. And the DJ actually was a white dude, DJ Too Tough. But there was one black dude in the group, but they were all Puerto Rican cats. I actually had a chance to meet them at a show in, I think it was 88 or 89. But I was probably the only one in New York really banging that tape when it came out. I was playing that shit everywhere I went. So I had Tough Crew at number 2, one of my favorite all-time groups. And then number 1, I have to, Public Enemy. To me, Public Enemy and Wu-Tang are probably the most influential groups, not just in hip-hop culture, but on American culture, period. Public Enemy, to me, probably was the first group that made or left that stamp of group, crew, hip-hop music. As I said before, they were militant. They were talking about issues that nobody wanted to talk about. They were addressing racism, police brutality. They were talking about this shit way back then. They were, indoctrination in media. Like I say, and Fight the Power. Fight the Power is dropping so many jewels. It's talking about how we're indoctrinated, Night of the Living Bassheads. There's so much stuff and messages they were dropping in their music, and their production, obviously. The Shock Lee brothers, everybody knew Hank Shock Lee. The Shock Lee brothers' sound was different than anybody else's production sound. And they wound up taking crazy samples, horns, the way they chopped the horns up and the pianos and the bass lines. And probably Hank Shock Lee took the funky drummer. I don't know, Ravon, how many times did Public Enemy chop up the damn funky drummer?
Almost every other song.
So they had a unique way of, their production was different. Public Enemy don't sound like nobody. I was completely different. And I was a Public Enemy head as far as going to shows. Yes, I was that dude. I will admit, I will confess, I did wear the big bathroom clock for a short period of time with the PE shirt. I was a Public Enemy head. When I tell you I was Public Enemy headed out, I mean, I was literally going to parties wearing the damn bathroom clock that Flav used to wear on the albums. But I was a Public Enemy psycho. So they're my number 1 all-time favorite group. That's my top 5.
All right. So my top 5. I'll do this. My 5. Excuse me. My top 5 Starts with 5B. All right, and I'm gonna see if you can figure it out, Benita.
Okay.
They don't play.
I've been in advertising for
Damn
about
commercials.
27 years.
Tell
I've
you.
had a tremendous amount of experience, but I also.
All right.
Oh shit! Yeah, Black Moon. Yeah, Black Moon was classic.
All right, so that's number 5. All right, but it wasn't just Black Moon, so I'm gonna put Black Moon, Helter Skelter, OGC, the whole boot camp clique.
Yeah, that whole Smith and Wesson, all them cats.
All them were my shit done. 5A, Brand Nubian. But I wrestle with this because they to me sometimes I wanted to put them higher, everything else, but Brand Nubian, classic. Their flow, their content, just what what they were talking about was really 5% doctrine, but they were also really dealing with a lot of exposing the racism, exposing the colorism within our own society, how we don't promote our own women or things like that, right? But what really, really got me from Brand Nubian was this song right here, because of what I was going through in my life at the time. You'll hear in a second.
Oh, yeah. What's the fuck to get beat down?
All right, Brand Nubian. Number 5. And I wrestled with this because I wanted to put them higher, but they were one of my favorite. I actually met this MC of this group a couple of times, spoke to him. I'll put this on right here, see if you know it. All right.
Oh, shit.
Yo, what's up?
Yeah, Mobb Deep, number 5.
Who you talking? Which one? We talking about Prodigy?
Yep, Prodigy was one of my favorite MCs. But as group-wise, them together, Havoc and Prodigy, the beats, they were just next level shit. Then this other group is number 4. Let me see if I could pick a song here. All right, let me do this. This is my number 4 group.
If you manage a team, you
know what? One more commercial comes up. I'm about to throw this damn thing. Damn it.
Here in 1992, we present the fabulous What's the Scenario remix. Whereas
Leaders in the new school.
Nope. Tribe Called Quest.
Oh, Tribe. Okay. I heard Busted.
Yeah. I wrestled with that, but that was one of my favorite songs from Tribe, the Scenario remix.
Oh, yeah.
That shit was ill. All right, Tribe Called Quest.
What about Come On Down? Remember that?
Yeah.
Tribe?
Yeah.
Busta, Big Daddy Kane? That was a classic.
Yeah, that was, listen, the beats that these guys had was off the chain, yo. They had jazz beats, like We Got the Jazz, and then from We Got the Jazz, they'll go and flip it to Bugging Out. You know, that was in itself unique. Q-Tip had his own flow, his own style, his voice was unique. But what really set the group to me was how Phife Dawg kind of like threw off, but yet collaborated and yet showed uniqueness to each other. How Phife Dawg and Q-Tip, how they flowed with each other. They were so different, but yet they worked together. You know what I mean? So I love that. Another group that's one of my favorites, though a lot of people slept on them, but I'm gonna just put on this song, see if y'all know. Where is it at? Shit, which one? I will just put on this one for now.
you know them snakes is high. Talking about
De La Soul. That's
Yeah,
one of my all-time groups. De La Soul, to me, they were so ahead of the game lyrically, they had to dumb down their shit. In Stakes is High album is when they actually started dumbing down some of their wordplay for the masses to understand what they were building or talking about. They were pretty much ahead of the game for a long time. And a lot of people don't know, but Tommy Boy Records fucked the shit over on De La Soul. To this day, they still ain't made no money off of their albums from Tommy Boy Records. That's a lot of people don't know that. But anyway,
Yeah.
number 2 group of all time. All right, let me see. I put on one of my favorite songs from them. So y'all can see. Y'all can see. Let me see which one. Yeah, let me do that. No, not that. Just regular goddamn song. Okay, here we go. One of my favorite.
If you manage a team,
Not the damn commercial though. That's not my favorite.
Platform to track everything you're.
All right, here it is.
Gangsta.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite groups of all time.
They did it last.
Bruce Flow is always slept on. He was mad intellectual, but he's also street and he was also 5 and he was into a lot of different things. But his flow and Premier's beats, man, that's hard to find though. People who have beats like Premier and a flow like that. Gangstar is number 2, and number 1, Wu-Tang Clan. Self-explanatory. They were innovative, creative, especially when they brought in what we all were raised with. A lot of us, they brought in the martial arts skits into the beginning of the music and the records. That shit was mad creative. And we could all identify, for those who grew up during that time, we could identify with that because we used to watch Kung Fu Theater on Channel 5 in New York. You know what I'm saying? And then after that, they used to have Monster Hour with Godzilla and all that. Shit. Okay,
Or the karate flicks down in Times Square. But you know what? Another group I was wrestling with, I know they didn't put out a lot of albums, but they were impactful for about 3-4 years, maybe 5. Diggable Planets.
Oh, yeah.
They were different.
I actually was going to come out in a video from what the hell was the first guy's name? You know how it was Lady Butterfly.
Yeah.
It was not the first rhymer, but the other guy who rapped after.
Where it was Doodlebug. It was
not Doodlebug, it's the other one. Yeah, he was actually starting his own group, and we were gonna come out in one of his videos when I was at Howard.
Okay.
Yeah, and I got to actually meet them. They were pretty cool people, bro.
Yeah, they were different. They were on some different shit.
Yeah, Diggable Planets they were definitely different. All right, so that's my top 5. Demetrius, top 5 groups. Take your time while I run to the bathroom, brother.
Yeah, I'm gonna go after you, brother.
No. All right. For number 5, I've got 2 groups. I'm going to tell you the reason why these 2 groups. It's just laid back reefer music. It's what it is. Naughty by Nature and Soul to Soul. These are just laid back reefer music to me.
Naughty, I can see that.
But number 4, I have Digital Underground. They're very creative, and their stuff is just funny. It's humorous.
No, they made some good music though. They have some banging beats.
Oh yeah, it's just very lighthearted, humorous, and they were into it.
By the way, that's where Tupac actually started out in digital.
Yeah, cool. Yep. Number 3, I have Onyx. These are Sith warriors. You write a song called Slam and Back the Fuck Up. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's Sith meditation music right there for me.
Yeah.
For number 2 is Run DMC, because I consider them sort of like the contemporary hip hop era. They're
pioneers.
That big, the clothing, all of that. They kind of were the pioneers of some of that culture and ideology that came along with that. But for number 1, I have Public Enemy, because I'm a closet revolutionary. I love those guys.
Yep.
You've got all them people on stage in paramilitary gear doing the Fruits of Islam thing. White people were terrified.
Yeah, and then they had people they had cages on stage, jail cells.
Yes.
The people, yeah, if you ever never been to a live show, my first full blown tour, not like just going to see an MC at like the Rooftop, Latin Quarters, Empire Boulevard, but my first full blown live tour was the Raising Hell tour by Run DMC, and on that tour, this was the lineup they had on that tour. Now you saw all these artists in one night. They had Run DMC, Public Enemy, Stetson Sonic, DJ Jazzy Jeff from the Fresh Prince,
Wow.
PMD, Biz Markie, and I'm missing one group. There was one other group on there.
Beastie Boys?
The Beastie Boys. There you go.
Holy shit.
That way, I saw them at Nassau Coliseum in Uniondale, New York, in Long Island.
Hey, the Beastie Boys got banned from here, from Jacksonville.
Oh, wow. Now, the Beastie Boys, and we haven't even talked about them, and the Beastie Boys were probably one of the only, I would say, white rappers that stayed true to their selves, even though they mastered the art of putting, on Def Jam and stuff, putting beats together to their music, but they more talked about, they kept their lives in the music. They weren't trying to be, like you see a lot of these other white rappers come out, they're trying to be something that they're not. Beastie Boys stayed true to their upbringing in Manhattan on the Upper East Side, and, and how they were raised, and how their music talks about how they were influenced by hip-hop culture growing up. They always stayed true to who they were.
Yeah.
And I forgot, they deserve to be honorable mention on that list, because they were pioneers too.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But yeah, Public Enemy, that's one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
All right. Appreciate that, bro.
All right.
JR, top 5 groups.
All right. I'm going to start with number 5. You already know Wu-Tang Clan, and my 5B, Killer Army. They just had this energy.
Yeah, Killer Army underrated.
And a lot of people don't know that Ninth Prince is RZA's little brother.
Yeah.
That guy, he's a nice lyricist. I fucks with him. Number 4A, CNN, Capone and Noriega.
Okay.
Vicious. 4B, DPG, Dog Pound Gangsters. I love their style, you know what I mean? I like they was from the left side, you know what I mean? I fucks with them. Number 3, Tribe Called Quest. Phife Dawg was my guy. He just represent for all the short people. I fucks with him. I know some people don't get down with these guys, but Bone Thugs and Harmony is just they darkness, you know what I mean? I didn't know what it was when I was young, but I was just like, yo, this shit is like, I fucks with them, you know? And my number 1B is Black Star. And it's just like that group was just, I don't know. That's why they.
Most definitely Talib Kweli there.
That
Yeah.
was something else right there, bro.
Yeah, and Gang Starr. If people just seen them live, oh my goodness, it was they were awesome. And my favorite album was Stepping Into the Arena. I had to go back in time to get that joint because I ain't know nothing about it. But yeah.
Now speaking on Killer Army, I don't also, if you don't know, PR Terrorist, who also goes by the name of Don Pacino, he put out 2 solo joints that get slept on.
Yeah, he did, son. Word. He did.
Rice and Beans. He's got that one album, Rice and Beans. That's classic too.
Oh man, I'm about to go back and look that.
Yeah, but he goes on the solo joints, he refers to himself as Don Pacino.
Yeah.
PR Terrorist with Killer Army. But yeah, I always liked him. I like his flow.
Right on.
All right. Appreciate that, brother.
For sure.
Hey, Ravana, he calls himself the Puerto Rican terrorist.
Yeah.
Real militant, brother. Real militant.
Yeah, that's militant.
Not melanated enough, though, brother. Not melanated. All right. JR, get that beat ready. Cue that beat up, brother. We're going to be back through in a few.
Hey, bro. Like most of them are on, my IG. And my computer, like, really not. Most of them on my IG, bro. And I ain't going to hold you like that. You know what I mean?
What is your IG? Is it under your name? I'll check it out.
For you to be universal with the numbers,
do me a favor. You know my email, right? Just email me the link.
Okay, cool.
All right, bro.
All right, thanks.
Yep. All right. Duma, top 5 groups.
All right. I'm gonna start with my honorable mention.
GG Fudge. No, just kidding.
My B would be Little Brother from North Carolina. They got some dope songs.
Oh, I forgot about them.
They're real nice. You know, a lot of the content they come out with their past couple of albums has been nice. My A would be Sciences of Life. Rest in peace, Inspector Willoughby.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
He's nice.
Y'all remember they performed on the land.
Yeah, I remember them. I actually know them cats. Actually, their cousin Rich, where I was staying in at the time when we were up there in Georgia and Macon, he was renting a spot right across from me. I used to see them cats regularly.
Yep.
Yeah. So my number 5 would be X-Clan. Because, you know, they was a big influence on me back in 93 and all that good stuff. My number 4 would be Wu-Tang Clan. Because, you know what I'm saying, they just did something that was real unique. You got 9 different MCs with 9 different styles coming together for one common cause. What can you say, man?
Yep.
My number 3 would be EPMD.
I wrestled with them on my
The Green Eye Bandit. And, you know what I'm saying, and Paris, man, what can you say?
Yep.
My number 2 would be Poor Righteous Teachers. Because there was a group that influenced me a lot back when I was 5%. So, yeah, and my number 1 would be, like everybody else, Public Enemy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because that was one of the albums that I had to sneak in the house when I was
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Appreciate that, Duma.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hermes, you next.
All right. So for my top, I guess I had the Fugees up there. You know, definitely a good delivery, very creative, and you know, just I don't know. I didn't even feel like they had a bad song, and I like that. You know, when you can have artists that put something out, and you know, that just resonates with me. So, and you know, and then even when they did their individual thing, they still had style. You know, so that was one thing I appreciated. What else did I have here? Definitely, you know, the Wu-Tang Clan. You know, that was one of them. You know, the delivery. And even when they separated, they still had style. And, you know, some of them are still even doing it today. So, you know, that's one thing. You know, from being from Philly, you know, I had to throw the Roots on there, you know, just those vibes, you know, just being lyrical and, you know, even the videos, you know, every time, you know, it brings me back to a time when I'm actually like, you know, I just remember being back in Philly and, you know, even talking about this today makes me want to take a trip back home. But
and let me ask you this, Hermes. What video? There was a video the Roots did, and after they did that, released that single and did that video, they disappeared off of the face of the earth because they exposed the whole industry. You remember that video? The things they did. Remember they were showing. They were showing in the video how. I'm hearing a bad echo. I don't know if somebody's got 2 devices on.
It might be me because I have this hooked up to my Bluetooth speakers, so that's probably me. Hold on, let me take that off real quick. But now this better?
Yeah, that's better. In that video, they show how the rappers be fronting. They rent the cribs, they rent the girls, the cars, the jewelry. It's called The Things They Do. And if you really pay attention, I meant to mention that earlier when we were talking about hip hop. Right after that, they disappeared. They wouldn't play their music no more. They wouldn't promote them. And that's when they went overseas. I believe they're one of the top 3 selling rap groups in Europe to this day. But after they did that video, they caught a lot of flack from industries and producers because if you guys can Google the video, if you guys don't remember it or didn't see it, it's called The Things They Do. And the video is about they're exposing how all the videos you see are fake. The girls are rented, the cars are rented, the house is rented. And
that's true, though.
It's true, but that's why it didn't sit well with a lot of the industry heads. But anyway.
Yeah, it kind of gets rid of that fantasy life, you know, and everybody thinking that's what it's all about. So I'm actually have to check that video out again. I think I do remember which one you're talking about, but after this is over, you know, I'm gonna definitely go ahead and sample that again, just you know, to bring back that memory. With the Roots, and I had Onyx on here because that just it was a lot of anger involved in it, but it was very lyrical, and it just allowed that energy to kind of be channeled into other things. Back then, I may have channeled it into the wrong things, but all in all, it still was definitely valid. And I love their style, and Sticky Fingers especially, I heard him mention earlier today, so that's definitely one of them. I had Bone Thugs on my list here, and even when they came out, and hearing one of their first albums, even with the East 99 and the Ouija, and it just felt like they had this little occult vibe for a little bit. Even though when they did kind of split up, I did appreciate when I still like Crazy Bone lyrically, Busy Bone lyrically. The other ones individually, I can't say I'm really a fan of, but those two are definitely significant, and they stood out to me. So yes, and I think if that's not 5, then I had MOP on here too, and it kind of gave me that same vibe as Onyx, a little hype, definitely something that can get your energy up, and channeling into something that's needed, especially when you have these energies within yourself, and it's just something that resonates with you. So yeah, that's my top 5 that I have to deliver for my groups.
Dope. Good 5 there. Onyx is definitely. A lot of people don't talk about Onyx a lot, but when Onyx came out, they definitely came out with a different flow. They actually brought a different scene into it. They brought the slamming into it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
From the punk rock into the hip hop, they brought that thing, that into it, and they brought some of the dark energy into it. The dark, things that people consider negative, the dark raw energy, the anger, frustration, the grimy side. Onyx went deep into that in a lot of their music. So that's a good selection. Onyx, a lot of people don't talk about them a lot, but they did have a lot of creativity in their music as far as coming out with something different.
Hey, you know what we didn't talk about, Ravana? Remember there was a brief stint in hip hop with horrorcore? Remember that? Flatliners, Grave Diggers.
Yeah, that was all around the same time when Onyx was out. They all came out, started coming out with the
horrorcore. Hip hardcore.
Yeah, they started talking about death, necromancy, all kinds of stuff, man. They were
Flatliners. Check Flatliners workout.
Yep. All right, appreciate that, Hermes. And last
no
but not least, Necro Cannon. Oh, hold on, I muted you by mistake. Go ahead, bro.
All right, cool. Well, my top 5, and I'll start with my top 5 first. All of them basically just gave me a lot of energy. But my number 1 group, they're the ones that really set me out through my teams. But my number 5 would be 3-6 Mafia, Fat Pat. Number 4, of course, would be UGK, which has Bun B, and of course, Pimp C and Pimp C. Number 3 will be MOP, because Annie Up and Cold as Ice. My number 4 would be Cypress Hill, most definitely. I'm sorry, that's my number 2. And my number 1 would be Swisher House, of course, because Swisher House has had a multitude of people come through their groups from when they did their stage shows, how they're able to take different beats, flow to it naturally, and or write their own lyrics down, and they just created a completely different genre out of the music too. So just from the creative aspects of it has really got me going along with them. So that's my top 5 in a nutshell.
Dope. Appreciate that. I'm gonna just say this real quick before we finish. Number 1, my favorite number 1 all-time producer, Premier, Pete Rock, Jay Dilla. Jay Dilla. Jay Dilla did a lot of music for a lot of people don't know. Tribe Called Quest. He produced a lot of shit. Beat Nuts. They produced a lot of shit people don't realize. That's the ones that come off the head. Favorite producer. RZA is dope too, but some of his shit wasn't always dope. Some of it was alright, but a lot of RZA stuff was dope. But then there was stuff that couldn't flow with, like Bobby Digital album. Couldn't stand a lot of them beats. But anyway, go ahead.
Premier too, but you know what we should do? You know what we should do next time? Top 5 albums of all time.
Okay.
top
everybody.
5 most influential hip hop albums that maybe impacted. That's a good thing. And let me just throw this in there for sport heads. Dallas is finally playing a good team. It looks like it's going to be 6-3 at the half.
Who they playing again?
They're playing New Orleans, but New Orleans got a good defense. But Bridgewater can hold it down. He's good enough to hold it down. Yeah. But I was, this one of my friends on Facebook. He's a Vikings fan. He goes back and forth with these Cowboy fans all the time. So I got involved in the thread, and I said, look, just like since 1995, Cowboy fans are sipping the Kool-Aid as usual. They ain't beat who they play, the Giants, Redskins, and Dolphins. Yeah. And they're talking Super Bowl. Now, the first decent team they ran into, they only got 3 points at the half.
Yeah, they're struggling, of course.
Yeah.
When you play teams that were until recently, all had one record or no wins, one win or no wins, of course you could dominate them. But
yeah, Redskins and Dolphins are 0-4, and just recently, the last 2 weeks, the Giants started playing better, but they played the Giants' first game of the year. That's because there was no pass rush, no pressure in the quarterback. Defenses on all those teams sucked. Now they run up against one good defense, and Dak Prescott looks like the Dak Prescott of a year ago. Yeah. He can't get reads. He can't throw downfield. He's getting hit.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Teddy Bridgewater is good enough to hold the fort down.
To hold it down.
But if Drew Brees was there right now, it'd probably be a different story.
Well, they'd be lighting them up right now.
Yeah. Because it's easy to have a great defense and defeat people and run up the score on them when you're playing teams that may not be on, higher caliber. When you play teams like the Saints, the Patriots, or people like that, they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle. And Dallas always does this. Cowboy fans will always go on the bandwagon, and all these new Cowboys come, and the Cowboys this, Cowboys that, and then what happens? They start getting exposed. By the time the playoffs come, if they do make the playoffs, they get one and done. Same old routine.
Yeah, I hope they get their asses kicked in the second half.
Yeah. It's okay. And I'm going to just say this. It's okay for y'all to like sports if you like sports. Don't let go of that, y'all. Okay?
I love sports.
Because I notice some people, they get super spiritual and all of a sudden, sports, or they get super conscious and, the white man. And look, I don't give a fuck. White man, black man, purple man. If I like sports, I'm going to like the damn thing. All right? I like my fucking Yankees. I like my fucking Giants. I like my fucking Knicks. And yes, I fucking love hockey too.
Me too. Love my Panthers.
All right? I love them fighting on ice, beating each other up with the sticks. If they had to, well, they can't use the sticks, but if they had to, I've been watching hockey since the goddamn 80s. That's how long I've been into that. Ain't nobody gonna come and tell me, well, that's not black enough sport. I don't give a fuck what kind of sport it is. If you like it, you like it.
Go listen to Dr. Delbert Blair. It is a black sport. It's just people don't know it. Yep. And the thing is,
exactly. Tell them, Dr. Delbert Blair, what he told you about, bro.
Yeah, you could actually Google this, and I didn't even know this until he told me. I didn't even know this. The guy that invented the slap shot was a black brother who was a midget, and they called it a slap shot because he was so close to the ground. He is the inventor of the slap shot. There's a hockey team out of Canada, and again, all you got to do is Google it, first black hockey team, and they hold all the records for goals scored, most wins. Again, it's another sport. And again, to me, it's irrelevant, but I'm saying for those that need the cultural validation, because, every sport has to be in a conscious community, has to be validated. But there are more people, blacks, Latinos, like down here, I just was telling Brother Ravana, last week down here at the Panthers Ice Stand, my little guy plays hockey. He's in a developmental league. And they had a tournament with all the Latino countries. It was pretty awesome to see. They had Venezuela, Puerto Rico, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Costa Rica. That's where hockey's, really starting to reach. And there's a lot more black players in the NHL. But regardless, I don't even really care about that, black or white. The concept of the sport, it's simple, it's fast-paced. The games are exciting, and it doesn't feel like you're standing in front of the TV for 3 hours watching a game. It's not a complicated sport to figure out. But what I find out with most brothers is, like I found this out with baseball. There's cats I used to grow up with. yeah, man, I don't like baseball. Baseball's whack. And then they get out in the field and they can't play. And then they really start to appreciate, you know, the concept of it. Because baseball it's a lot more mental. It's physical, but it's a lot more mental than probably any other sport that's out there. To me, hockey is the fastest, the most physical and aggressive sport, including football. And if you watch hockey and say, you may not be into it, but you can't watch hockey and say hockey is whack. Because I challenge anybody to get out there on some skates and skate as fast as them dudes skate and do the shit that they do. And watching my little guy do it, I got an appreciation for it because I can't do it. But I love the sport. It's a great sport.
And the fact that you're skating, you drop on a dime, you stop on a dime, shift gears, skate backwards, and then you got to worry about getting crushed up against the boards, blindsided. See, in football, you can't do that because you can, but if you blindside somebody, you're going to roughing the passer or some stuff. In hockey, you can actually do that within time. You got to do it like within a certain time. You just can't come out the blue. You can actually crush somebody up against the wall. I mean, anyways, like I was saying, just because you walk these occult paths, do not let anybody ever tear you apart, shake you down, shift you upside down from who and what you love or like to do have always been. Because I see this pattern over and over. People get into consciousness. What happens? They let go of everything they were ever into, and all of a sudden, they're so super spiritual. They're so anti-everything. And inside, a lot of them are miserable fools and broke bastards who cannot get ahead in their life. And that's the sad reality. Because you changed yourself and a part of yourself died. And once your part of yourself starts to die, you stop enjoying life the way you always used to. If you're a gamer, if you love video games, let nobody tell you, oh, that's the white man's thing. You shouldn't be playing video games. Look at them and say, you know what? Take your goddamn controller, shove it in their face, say, I'm going to keep playing this shit. It's your shit. That's what you like to do. If you like to fucking dance, don't let people tell you, oh, the only dance you should do is African dance. Bullshit. You can dance whatever the hell you want. You can break. You can fucking do tap dancing. You can do whatever the hell you want. Enjoy it. Stop letting people fuck with you and tell you what to do or not to do. Because the minute you start accepting what those people say, you're back under another religion with another set of laws, making you a damn fool if you believe them, control, and let yourself get controlled by them. If you like what you like it, okay? And this goes for anybody. I got flack from somebody one day. I forgot to tell you this, Beniti. Some dude emailed me and said, oh, I'm so devastated and upset. I said, what are you talking about, brother? How can you promote and tell these people on your radio show? This one we were doing the talk show. I forgot to tell you this. He said, how can you tell this brother that if he likes white women, he should fuck them?
Real simple. If you like them, that's what you do.
He said, brother, that you're promoting integration. Listen, I said, listen, fool.
It's not that
show. You really understand love? Love has no borders or boundaries. That's all man-made, created social conditions and strife to keep people apart. We're on the left-hand path. We're trying to get past our own racism, our own prejudices, and things like that, and trying to get to another level. Okay? You like what you like. If some brothers like white women, that's what they like. Shit. Why I gotta be cursed if they like that? Me, I love sisters, but I love all women in general. I love all women. I'm gonna say it again closely. I love all women in general, but I love sisters. My wife is African American. My ex-wife is African. That shit is not something that you should be made to feel bad because that's what you like or love or married or anything else. So let people stop telling you what to do and not to do, because once you give in to them, you're back to being a brainwashed fool.
And remember, this is for everybody. Remember this. One thing I say on my channel, and I always put it in my disclaimers, this is not a conscious channel as far as what conscious community. This is a platform for anybody, as long as you're willing to do the work, number one, really do shadow work, which is understand the real you. But the beauty of this path is this. We don't got to live up to nobody's standards. There's no gauge. We don't got to gauge ourselves to dressing a certain way, thinking a certain way. We can't be held or judged to somebody else's conscious standards. Like Brother Ravana was saying, if you like music, you like sports, you like movies, you like entertainment, you like to go out, whatever it is you like to do, that's what it is. Don't try to. One thing I can't stand is when people try to. And I was joking about the sports thing earlier. I hate when people always have to have some cultural reason to justify a hobby or an interest. That's comical to me. If you like watching movies, you like watching movies. That's it. Don't turn it into something other than that. If you like you said, you're a game head. If you like playing video, it's what you like to do. Who cares? And your preference and what you're doing, your bedroom, that's your business. And if you feel like that's got to be judged or gauged to these other platforms that promote spiritual consciousness, it's comical. It's ridiculous. That's why I love this path, because we don't got to worry about living up to somebody's criteria or guidelines. We can be us. We can do it what it is we like to do and not worry about I don't say worry because I don't care about what anybody fucking thinks. That's the better way to put it. So yeah, just be you. That's what shadow work is about, understanding the real you. And we're all different when it comes to that regards. But the beauty of it is, embrace it. Don't try to justify it for some, stupidity, because it's comical to me. I like sports just because I like sports. I've liked sports since a kid, played it all throughout high school, played sports all my life growing up. And to certain, I know myself and Brother Ravana, it's part of the culture growing up. Like the Yankees is not just sports to us. It's a part of your upbringing. It's part of where you were raised. It's part of your neighborhood. It's part of your family. It's that the thread runs that deep with sports. So it's not just where some people are bandwagon fans, they just get down with a team that's winning or they don't know shit about sports. No. We could sit here and spit the history going back to however far you want to go back to the present day, because it's part of the culture. There's a difference. That's the same thing with the Giants, and unfortunately the Knicks, as painful as that might be, very painful, as fortunate as that is. Only team that I have not, they won the championship in 73. I was 2 years old. I don't remember it. It's the only team I would hope to see before I pass and transition on to win a championship. That's the only team I have not seen win a championship. Came close twice, but other than that. But it's part of the culture. I love sports. Not for any other reason. I don't need to justify it. Well, the Egyptians invented baseball. There's 9 players, 9 batters, 9 innings. Get the fuck out of here. That shit. Stop. We ain't even going to go there. It's just stupid.
It is. Let me just show you how much of a part of the culture it is. My mom, and she's not really a sports fan, but she loves the Yankees. She'll go to games. She loves it, eats it, breathes the Yankees. But she's not really a sports fan like that. Yeah, she likes the Knicks after, she'll watch it if we're watching it. She likes the Giants if we're watching it. But the Yankees, nah, she'll tell you about who's who, the players, everything. That's how much of a part of the culture it is.
That's right.
That's a part of you. It's of who you are. It's like telling Beniti not to eat pasta. Okay?
Not gonna happen.
All right? It's like telling me not to eat rice and beans and shit.
Not gonna happen.
With goddamn mofongo and shit like that. It's like telling, people not to eat certain things like cornbread or red velvet cake or some shit. Get the fuck out of here. If that's what you grew up with, that's what you like, you like. You know what I'm saying? So be yourselves. And Demetrius, I see you got one last thing you wanted to say, so I'm gonna let you say it, brother. What's going on, Demetrius?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to because Brother Beniti talked about doing magic with music. That made me think about doing sorcery with music, because I've done that before too. Because we're talking about music and how it activates your energy and all that. You were talking about video games too. There's a game called True Crime Streets of LA, from old Sony PlayStation. And there's a song on there. I'm not really big into gangster rap, but it's by a guy named Bishop Lamont that by the same title, True Crimes. Oh my God. I get the bad cop rating when I hear that shit on that game. But anyway.
And speaking on the music, let me throw this to you guys. There's an artist you may or may not be familiar with that I use for a lot of my rituals. He's a dark ambient musician artist. His first name is Atrium, Atrium, and Sorcery. Let me spell his last name for you. if you want to, man, let me tell you something. He's got albums called The Void, The Lost City, Leviathan, Call to Cthulhu. Hold on. I want to get the right spelling of his last name for you. I got all his albums on my Amazon Music app, and I use his music for pretty much any chamber work that I do. But I'm going to throw another ritual at you guys that you could do in the bathroom. You're going to laugh when I tell you this one. But I want to give everybody the spelling. And then since we were on music, all right, his first name is Atrium, just as it sounds, Atrium. His last name is Sorcery, but it's spelled Carceri. You can't find him on YouTube, but you can find his albums as a whole. Most music apps have it. I know Amazon. Like I said, I got all his albums on Amazon. But just to give you a quick example, and I'm going to tell you the ones that are off the chain, like doing dark, occult, left-hand path work. He's got one called The Black Corner Den, off the chain. Metropolis, The Old Kingdom is probably one of his best albums, in my opinion. The Void is off the chain. But check out his work. But when you see some of the titles and the music, when you listen to the music, it's dark, ambient, occult music. You could tell this guy, he's tapped in. But here's something I'll throw at you guys to do with music. Find a track like that, right? Go into your bathroom, turn off all the lights, come through that night completely dark, and take a shower in the dark and visualize you're bathing in the waters of noon and chaos. And just see where it takes your mind. Trust me, do it. And just create a background. I find doing it with dark ambient music like that is powerful. And the feeling of the water feels different. Everything feels different with the darkness there. But do it in complete darkness. Just curious to see what you get out of that.
And by the way, hold on real quick. While Anita was saying that, I looked this up on YouTube. They don't have specifically his music, but this individual called Cryo Chambers.
Yeah, he's affiliated. Yeah.
He has a lot of that guy's music downloaded.
Cryo Chamber is good too. He's dark ambient and occult. He's got some. Yeah, that's another artist. Check him out too. Cryo Chamber. He's really good.
Yeah, and there's one I wanted to suggest that Demetrius put me on. Crick. Do you remember the name of that? The one.
Karate and Chants. It's Somnus Dreadwood. His stuff off of his YouTube channel. Black Core Ascendancy, and yeah, those chants. That track will take you right into that void space, almost like being dead.
Black Core Ascendancy.
I gotta check that out.
His best song is I'll tell you in a second. Kara Kation, Kerakation, Death Chants. It's actually Death Chants. When you actually listen to this and you go to the graveyard, you'll feel like literally you'll feel the spirits there, and you'll start hearing them communicate. Listen to that. It's deadly. All right.
What I started to do that I found out, instead of just playing it on regular speakers, I've been now going into my ritual chamber for probably the last 6-7 months. I wear the noise canceling headphones. I like to go into the chamber with them on. For some reason, when it blocks out anything external and you have the music just not too loud, not too low, but it just seems like it. For me, I'm just an example. I'm not saying this might be for everybody else, but it locks me in. So I go in there with a good Beats noise canceling headset, and I'm locked into the chamber and the work I'm doing. Everything on the outside is completely blocked out, and it's good shit.
Well, that was one of the suggestions that I had, because I had an experience years ago. Was an ex-girlfriend, and she said she had some friend that she worked with that she was gonna send to kick my ass and all this shit. So I'm like, okay, and I knew who the guy was. So I'm sitting on the bus. This is in upstate New York, and he gets on the bus. He doesn't know who I am, and he sits on the bus in front of me. So I've got an MP3 player on. If you've seen Queen of the Damned, remember the scene when they're out on the beach? That song they played with the violin? Yeah, I put that on. So as I had that on, I'm gathering current in, and right when he got to that climatic point, I let that current go right at the back of that dude's head. He disappeared for about 2 months. So fuck that dude. So you could use music in that manner to help generate and pull in current and utilize that. As a tradition that one of the traditions I'm initiated into, the old witch queen from the past, she used to do that. You know, with like heavy metal, death metal. This one was like in her 80s from Greece.
But tap into, if you get a chance, check out that cat Atrium. I'm telling you, that Black Corner Den and Old Kingdom. Let me tell you something. That shit took me to places. I'm telling you, you just forget you there. I mean, I was doing it with some work, and I stumbled across him from what Ravana just brought up. I stumbled across him through Cryo Chamber. That's how I stumbled across him. I started out with I like Cryo Chamber. He's good, but to me, Atrium's on a whole nother level. Check his music out. It's perfect for what we do. For what we do, it's perfect.
Yeah, definitely. And Hermes Access, you mentioned, you're surprised we didn't mention Erykah Badu today. Well, how about down the road we do an R&B night? Oof.
Oh, shit.
Definitely.
Keith Sweat, #1 artist.
Yeah, I was about to just say that. You know, Keith Sweat coming here soon. So, I'm getting ready for that.
I'm down for that.
Yeah. But we're going to do an R&B night. All right? So y'all going to get your R&B top 5, you know, individual artists, top 5 groups.
Yes.
Top 5 female R&B singers.
I bet you when we do that night, this room will have more people in it because all the R&B. They're going to have the Jodeci heads up in here.
Yes.
Genuine heads up here.
Hey, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Well, we should also add to that list, because there's a lot. We should add not only also the 5 top female R&B solo artists and groups, because R&B actually produced a lot more R&B.
Yeah. And like SWV, I missed them girls. That was one of my favorite female groups.
Nasty.
SWV. You heard? Let me stop. Anyway,
Escape was one of the top female R&B groups. Yeah.
Escape. Mary Jane Girls, one of my favorite of all time.
Yep.
All right. So anyways, yeah, stop having flashbacks because I know it's getting late. All right, y'all. So we'll let y'all know when that R&B class going to be. Look out for Benitez classes coming up on his channel, Primordial Chaos. Look out for classes. Go ahead, bro.
Let everybody know if you guys are able to come. Myself, Ravana, and a bunch of other people. We're going to be doing something down here on the 27th. Hopefully, we've been trying to plan something also in Orlando for a while. We got to try to get something over there too. But we're going to be doing an annual event that we actually started last year. I don't know if you guys heard me talk about it on the channel, but it's going to be from the 25th to the 27th of October. There's going to be different, not just me and Ravana. There's going to be a lot of new people presenting. We're trying to encourage. I know you guys know Sister Trina. She'll be doing a presentation there. Lady Mystic. I got a sister coming from Seattle. I got this brother down here in Miami. I hope you guys get a chance to check this cat out. It's a Latino brother. He's going to be doing a presentation on Geometry. He's off the chain with this shit, man. You got to see him break this stuff down. It's a cat I met down here. He's down in Hialeah. He's going to be doing a presentation. We're going to be doing 3 different ritual workings that weekend. Not only, again, not just me and Ravana will be there. I know Ravana Noon's going to do a presentation at that event. But I want you guys to, if you get a chance. Right now, it's looking like we have 15 to 17 confirmed and growing. So it's going to be a nice little event. And then plus, we just want to kick it and have some fun too. So hopefully, if you guys are able to come, send me an email or send Ravana an email. He'll send you the information.
All right. So keep that in mind. That's coming up at the end of October. Keep up with the classes coming up. Oh, just in case y'all wondering, in October, I might not make any videos till I get back because I'm going on a vacation. It's our 1-year anniversary for me and my wife, so we're going on a cruise for like 10 days.
Cool.
So, yeah, I'm going to be gone.
All right.
I'm going to be disappearing. So,
hell yeah, do what you got to do.
Yeah, there ain't going to be probably no videos, so don't look out for any videos. So, this weekend is probably the only video coming up next week, and then after that, I'm going to November. So, just letting y'all know. All right, y'all.
All right. Hey, it's fun. I enjoyed it. I'll talk to everybody.
All right. He's alive.
Dark greetings, my niggas.